I have a mobile phone in my Dantian. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276 Extreme Mode. At this moment, the spiritual will that had been tempered on the edge of life and death time and time again, and the strongest desire in the heart, converged on the knife in Sudong's hand. Extreme Mode. Burn all the true essence of the body, burn life, burn all energy, and pursue the maximum limit. This is an immeasurable increase and improvement. Rumble, the world is breaking. The long knife in Sudong's hand burst out with a terrible blade light, and broke the void. A huge crack appeared between the whole world. The crack was trembling, and the seawater and reefs below were suspended. The netherworld master, who was still roaring wildly just now, suddenly lowered his head, and saw Sudong, who was incarnated as golden light, and rushed towards him in an instant. The ferocious blood-red eyes narrowed directly. The power of the Void God. How did he master the power of the Void God? In the extreme mode, all of Sudong's strength burned and exploded to the limit, and naturally went one step further, directly reaching the level of the power of the Void God. Originally, he mastered nearly a portion of the power of the Heavenly Way, plus the power of the Void God at this moment, nearly 2 portions of power. You know, at the beginning, the 7th Void God of the Yan family only mastered 3 parts of power, and ranked 7th among the many Void Gods in the Starlight world. The surging power instantly condensed into the broken tooth knife in his hand, and the broken tooth knife could not withstand it, and began to crack. The power was too strong. Even Sudong himself could not bear it, let alone the broken tooth knife. The trembling power condensed into this long knife, forming a layer of strange runes on the long knife. Extreme Mode. Heavenly Punishment. Nearly 2 parts of power in one knife. Sudong stared at the stone ghost in front of him with red eyes, and roared in his mouth. Heavenly Punishment. Kill. Boom. The blade light condensed to the extreme on the broken tooth knife in his hand instantly whistled across the sky. The blade light was the carrier, and the power was the soul. The 2 powers gathered in this knife, and the void was broken and collapsed. The blade light tore the distance of the void in space, producing a series of void fragments. Large pieces of space fragments fell off, revealing the vast and endless, unknown corner of the vast void. What? The stone ghost looked at the knife light that broke through the air, splitting the sky and earth, and touching the void, and couldn't help but be shocked. Split the sky and earth inside the defective small world, breaking the void. Breaking the void, ascending in broad daylight, transcending the shackles of heaven and earth. This is a legend in the void. It only had a thought in its mind, and the golden knife light had already arrived in front of it with terrifying power. At this moment, the stone ghost felt the threat of death, and frantically waved its huge arms to resist, and its head dodged left and right to avoid it. The core of its life is the head, and it will not die unless the head is destroyed. But the helmet of the witch god had already been broken, after being bombarded by the 10 directions extinction array. If it comes again, it will probably break. Puff. In the rolling space debris, the knife light flew past a series of strange crescent-shaped traces, flashing again and again. The stone ghost itself is at a high level. With the help of the witch god's heart, its body was raised to a terrifying level in a short time. In terms of the practice of combat techniques, it did not even master a bit of the power of the heaven. It only has a portion of divine power. Although it is at a high level, how can it compare to Sudong? Almost in the blink of an eye, the knife light passed directly between the 2 huge arms of the stone ghost, directly penetrated its neck, cut a huge wound, and almost cut off its entire head. The stone ghost widened his eyes, and there was unparalleled madness in his blood-red eyes. Kill, kill, kill. There was no fear at all. The injury on the neck instead aroused the tyranny and cruelty in its bones. The huge body controlled the black air, and fought with Sudong. Boom boom boom. Sudong's body was flexible. He swung the knife light again and again while dodging. Every time the knife light passed through a crescent-shaped trajectory, it easily left huge wounds on the body of the stone ghost. In the world inside Sudong's Dantian, the surging true energy flowed out like crazy, as if it didn't cost money. Under the golden light, although his body was wrapped in a dark red battlesuit, cracks appeared on his body. That was the backlash of forcibly controlling the power. The dark red battlesuit even began to break. Crazy, all crazy. Feng Larangzi sighed in pain in Sudang's chest. It must succeed. It must succeed. This stone ghost is almost at its limit. She was praying for Sudang. At this point, it was irreversible. Unless the stone ghost died. She could even feel that Sudang was rapidly becoming weak. The extreme mode was like a terrible vortex, madly draining Sudang's vitality, true essence, and spiritual will. Whoosh! A tricky knife light was like a ripple, passing through the two arms of the Lord of the Underworld and directly chopped on the latter's neck. Puff! The head of the Lord of the Underworld was cut off again. Woo! An angry roar sounded. Boom! The surrounding void suddenly exploded, and a palm with 3 sharp nails suddenly grabbed Sudang, and grabbed Sudang's right arm holding the knife. Sudang saw the blood-red eyes of the Lord of the Underworld, and the blood-red eyes were also staring at it. They both saw the fearless light in each other's eyes. Puff! The huge finger directly twisted Sudang's arm off. If it weren't for the dark red battlesuit to resist, this arm would have been crushed into powder. The huge body of the stone ghost fell down, leaving only a huge head biting at him. Die. Sudang used his induction to control the knife light to chop over. Puff! The knife light chopped on the stone ghost's broken witch god helmet, and sparks flew. What? Can't be split open. Sudang's face changed. He couldn't split this severely damaged witch god helmet? This witch god's helmet. How could it be so strong? As long as the head of the stone ghost can't be killed, the latter will not die. Boom boom boom. Sudang chopped on the helmet with his knife, and the head was even more fearless and bit Sudang again and again. The terrible bite force almost bit Sudang into a meat paste through the dark red battlesuit. Die. Why aren't you dead yet? Break it open quickly. This book has been updated recently in #@. Update. Countless people who watched this tragic scene had already burst into tears. The battle had reached this point. As long as the helmet on the stone ghost's head broke, it would die. Why didn't it die? No, the saint's breath is rapidly decreasing. Anxious. Extreme mode is an extremely energy consuming engine. After madly consuming all the available energy in Sudang's body, it began to fail rapidly. Why won't it break? Won't it break? Sudang was extremely anxious. Bite you to death. Bite you to death. The stone ghost swung its hideous head frantically, biting Sudang in front of it again and again. It also felt that the witch god's helmet had reached its limit and would soon be unable to bear it. It truly felt the crisis of death. No. Sudang felt that his consciousness was weakening and rapidly becoming weak. The power was passing away like a tide. He's no good. Haha, I survived. I survived. The stone ghost roared happily. Break, break, break. Sudang's consciousness struggled for the last time. He was not afraid of death, but he was afraid of failure. Sudang, survive, survive. Feng Larangzi prayed silently. One last blow. I still have one last blow. Sudang's eyes suddenly lit up, and the space in front of him flashed. Suddenly, a huge palace appeared, and a golden spear flew out of the palace. The golden spear just hovered there, emitting terrifying waves. Piercing the sky spear. No. The stone ghost bit him even more frantically, and would never allow Sudang to control the stab. With this bite, the stone ghost wanted to bite Sudang to pieces. Sudang felt his consciousness blurring, and he knew he was about to die, but he had to stab this shot even if he died. It seemed that Sudang was about to die in the mouth of the stone ghost, and his body was shattered. Suddenly, above the sea, a stream of azure blue light quickly passed through the sky and instantly flew to the battlefield. The world was quiet, and a huge glazed tower lay in front of the stone ghost's head. A slender figure embraced Sudang's body. The white face that was once so familiar to Sudang was still so gentle and peaceful, just like the figure that Sudang had seen in the blur of life and death. It was like the longest and gentlest river, wrapping Sudang. She hugged Sudang, with a huge pagoda behind her, and the wind blew her hair. But Sudang's heart sank. No, no. Suddenly, he shouted how much he wanted to hug the girl in front of him again, but he couldn't do it. The woman hugging him turned around and resolutely drove the glazed pagoda towards the stone ghost head. Boom. She rushed towards the most terrifying beast in the world without fear of death. Chapter 277. No regrets even if you die. The woman in the sky had a sharp look in her eyes. She drove the glazed pagoda towards a huge mouth that opened, and there was a surging black light condensing in the mouth, and she quickly bit the head of the Netherlord. The glazed pagoda was full of glory. Just for love, I will not regret it even if I die. The fierce light enveloped the woman, the beautiful and graceful woman, who jumped into the sky and embraced the glory of the sky. At this moment, she was the most dazzling brilliance in the world. At this moment, the brilliance of the glazed pagoda contained two women's feelings and beliefs. One was Meng Si Nyang's feelings for Sudong, and the other was Mrs. Feng Lao's affection for her daughter. At this moment, the sky and the earth changed color. Countless lights emanated from the pagoda, reflecting on the fair face of the woman driving the pagoda, floating out a series of seemingly invisible avenue runes, merging into her body. The power on her body suddenly surged, like a raging fire burning endlessly, bursting with all the determination to burn, and bursting out with unparalleled brilliant brilliance, going towards the darkness, colliding with the head of the Lord of the Underworld. This was the most tragic light, so dazzling that all the lives that watched this scene burst into tears, and no one could open their eyes. Boom. The loud noise in an instant shook the entire sky. The unstoppable head of the Lord of the Underworld bit the glazed pagoda fiercely, and the divine power of the triple void god burst out and shook the glazed pagoda. Indistinctly, an extremely cold phantom could be seen, which dissipated from the pagoda. A slender and delicate female figure was shattered in the tremor. Suddenly, a heart-wrenching roar sounded between heaven and earth. Kill. Endless blood color enveloped Sudong's consciousness, and his eyes were already blood red, as if he was a beast that was about to be swallowed by slaughter and the endless sea of blood, only wanting to kill, only willing to kill. Then kill. Kill. Swish. Sudong was holding the sky-piercing spear in front of him. This spear, the most proud of the seventh void god of the Yan clan, seemed to have merged with him at this moment. It instantly sensed the position of the number 1 key and teleported to the bloody mouth of the Netherlord. The sky-piercing spear pierced out, like a dazzling sun. Sudong tried to stretch out his trembling hand that had just been repaired. He wanted to hug the almost broken woman in front of him one last time. His eyes were blood red, and in the blood red, his body suddenly exploded. Hold your breath. In the picture, Sudong, Meng Si Nyang, the glazed pagoda, and the sky-piercing spear. The rays of light completely converged together. Suffocation. The whole world suffocated at this moment. Boom. An unparalleled breath broke out, like magma erupting, and the world exploded in the mouth of the Netherlord. No. The Netherlord widened his blood-red eyes. A golden spear stabbed out from the top of its head. It pierced the helmet of the witch god, and also pierced the core of its life. At this moment, the ancestors of the Jin Dynasty, the Jin Emperor, the many true lords of the 10 Directions Pavilion, and others who were nervously watching this scene were extremely nervous. Yang and Zheng Dashu were in tears and kept sobbing. The grandmother of the Moon Palace Mountain of the 9 ancestors, Qin Liu Niang, San Yang, and many other disciples covered their faces and sobbed. Whether it was a demon or a human, all the lives in the world were watching this scene. Under the cover of the great heaven-suppressing seal, the head of the Netherlord in the picture was pierced and shattered like a dazzling firework. The whole thing exploded. The head of the Netherlord exploded. As the head of the Netherlord exploded, the golden light in the sky dimmed instantly and continued to dim and dim until it turned into nothingness. The world was quiet. This piece of land and river once again restored its original appearance. 1 moment, 2 moments, 3 moments. Dead. The Netherlord is dead. Where is the Holy Lord? Holy Lord. Between heaven and earth, all lives are waiting for the golden light to light up again and illuminate the entire sky again. But time passed. There was no more golden light in the sky, and no figure appeared from the horizon. The whole world was silent. The ancestors of the Jin Dynasty, the Emperor of Jin, and many other immortal cultivators rushed to the overseas areas where the war was taking place. When many immortal cultivators came to this sea area, they saw the huge black palace and the huge glazed pagoda floating on the sea. Standing in the sea, the huge golden spear forced the sea water away, and the stone ghost head pierced by the spear, still wearing a helmet. Some immortal cultivators wanted to touch the golden spear, but as soon as they approached the range of 100 feet, they were instantly affected by the terrible pressure, and their bodies trembled and knelt down. Not to mention getting close, it was difficult for them to even stand up. After all, the sky-piercing spear was the most proud weapon of the 7th void god of the Yan clan. At this moment, its power was aroused. How could they blaspheme it? But the scene of the battlefield also truly proved that the Lord of the Netherworld was really dead and could not die anymore. The Lord of the Netherworld is dead. Celebrate together. 3 days later, a message jointly released by the demon race and the human race spread throughout the world. The Lord of the Netherworld is dead, and our catastrophe is over. We must always remember that every powerful person who brings peace to our world is the one who brings light to our world. Without them, we would not be where we are today. It is they who saved our world. The immortal venerable, the supreme of Buddhism. The evil king, the demon king of the blue sea, the demon king of the shocking mountain. This book was recently updated on #@. Update. The holy venerable Sudong and the 9 ancestors Meng Si Nyang. From today on, there is a new holy place overseas, the floating city. Humans and demons are not allowed to desecrate it. The floating city is the general name for the void temple and the glazed pagoda. They are called the Hanging Temple and the Heaven Suppressing God Tower by the world. There is also the place where the sky-piercing spear is located, which is regarded as a forbidden place by the world. Countless immortal cultivators came here to watch, and some wanted to enter the Void Temple and the Glazed Pagoda, but both seemed to have invisible obstacles that prevented them from entering within 1,000 meters. Countless lives, in addition to gratitude and respect, worship, and admiration for Saint Sudong. In this disaster of the Netherlord, Sudong turned the tide. He fought to the death with the Netherlord until they both died. This spirit can be said to be the first person in the world. Of course, because of the death of the Netherlord, more than one strong man Sudong died, but among these many strong men, Sudong is the well-deserved first person, the strongest. The years of cultivation were extremely short, but his strength improved rapidly, even to the level of breaking the void, and ascending day by day. According to the strength of Sudong's last battle with the Netherlord, Sudong had already reached a new level, the level of martial god. In this world, there is a martial god who truly shows his tremendous strength in front of the world. Such an existence makes the world believe that the road to martial god is actually feasible, and many immortal cultivators have begun to delve into the path of warriors. Even many strong men have studied many martial arts and Taoism fusions, which can have new power. So a trend of practicing martial arts has been set off in this world. The status of martial artists has risen greatly. In a blink of an eye, a month has passed. On this day, a white cloud floated 1,000 meters away from the Void Temple. On the white cloud stood 2 figures, a man and a woman. The man was extraordinary, with auras on his body and a stubborn look. The woman beside him was dressed in white and very pretty. At this moment, her belly was bulging, and she had a hint of mature woman's charm. The two of them bowed to the Void Temple from a distance. Benefactor Lin Jin, accompanied by his wife Xiaobei, looked at the huge Void Temple from a distance. Looking at the Void Temple, tears were still falling on Xiaobei's cheeks. Lin Jin also looked painful. When my husband and I were in danger that day, thanks to the benefactor's help, the benefactor is an extremely strong man. I knew that the benefactor would definitely become a martial god and enter a new level, but I didn't expect. Lin Jin shook his head painfully. Husband, we must always remember the kindness of our benefactor. In the future, we must come here to kowtow on every anniversary of our benefactor's death. Aren't you going to establish a sect? We will always worship the benefactor's spirit tablet in the sect. Madam Xiaobei said, crying. Monsters often value affection and gratitude more than humans. Yes. Lin Jin nodded, and his eyes flashed with a faint golden light as he looked at the Void Temple. But he could not see anything. The huge dark temple was suspended there. What was it like inside? If the temple was a magic weapon, how could it float there by itself? I still don't believe that the benefactor is really dead. I don't believe it either, but we all saw that battle clearly. Sister Meng was willing to die for her beloved. I still remember that a good man like the benefactor should be matched by such a good woman. Xiaobei also whispered. They kowtowed, offered sacrifices, talked a few more words, and left hand in hand. The huge Void Temple was left empty. Just as Lin Jin thought, if this temple was a magic weapon, why would it automatically float in the air without its owner and prevent any life from approaching? In the void temple, an inconspicuous seed fell there. No one noticed that the seed was emitting a dim glow. Next to the seed, there were many items, including a part of a hideous and terrifying skull. This part was the core of the head of the Netherlord. In the temple, a faint wave was floating. Chapter 278 became data. Sudong, are you still alive? On the ground of the void temple, Feng Lao Rongzi, in seed form, repeatedly communicated telepathically. Because of the causal agreement they created, she and Sudong had the closest connection, and she knew best whether Sudong was dead or not. In reality told her that Sudong was indeed dead without even a trace left, because it was not the Lord of the Netherworld who killed Sudong, but Sudong who activated the sky-piercing spear, a divine weapon that the true Void Gods were proud of. The 7th Void God of the Yan clan also said that, if Sudong did not reach the level of the Void God, he would die if he rashly activated the sky-piercing spear. Sudong was killed by the sky-piercing spear. The transformed demon souls were instantly destroyed under this power. Both the body and the soul died. But Feng Lao Rongzi was able to communicate with Sudong through telepathy, and this kind of telepathy was like a line formed by 2 points. If one of the points was gone, how could this line still exist? Sudong was one of the 2 points. If Sudong was dead, why could Feng Lao Rongzi continue to communicate telepathically? Although the telepathic transmission is very weak, I can only feel it vaguely. But even if it's just this, I can still feel that you are still alive. Sudong, you are still alive, right? My master once told me that there is a kind of people in the void who are born difficult to die. Even if everyone thinks he will die, he will not die. I have waited for a long time to wait for you. How could you die like this? This void temple recognizes the master through spiritual binding. The void temple is emitting barriers and prohibitions to protect this area. You are in this area, right? Sudong, where are you? The void temple was extremely quiet, only there were strange and weak waves floating in the dark, and no one knew where they would eventually drift to. See Niang. Endless darkness enveloped the whole world. Sudong trembled in the darkness, not daring to move, not daring to face it, not daring to wake up. How much he wanted this to be a nightmare. The nightmare will eventually pass, and he will eventually see the dawn. But he woke up after all, and what was waiting for him was not dawn, but darkness. In the endless darkness, he tried to drift forward, cold, dead silent, without any warmth, just like his heart, his consciousness. In the endless dark space, cold and without boundaries, Sudong slowly woke up, slowly passed the longest and most difficult pain, and thought about nothing. As if guided by something, he looked at everything here for the first time. Suddenly, the darkness disappeared, replaced by a lot of knowledge. Information. All the information he needed to know, was stuffed into his mind. He was a mobile phone. Because of a strange encounter, he came to this world, absorbed some unknown substance and mutated, and could absorb spiritual energy, and connect to the Shyandeo network. There is a network between heaven and earth. These network nodes may be in the form of life, or they may be a piece of heaven and earth. They are combined one by one to form the Shyandeo network. The mobile phone absorbs spiritual energy and maintains the connection of the Shyandeo network. The mobile phone itself is just a carrier that carries system data. When this carrier is broken, the essence of this string of data will be highlighted. Sudong is this string of data. I became a set of data. The world was no longer dark, but turned directly into an extremely gorgeous room. This room was not a pavilion, but a luxurious villa, filled with the products of modern technology. Sudong was standing in this room. His face was calm. There was no sadness or anger, no joy or uneasiness. He was extremely calm, and he could not feel any emotional fluctuations. Now he seemed to be the same as before, but in fact the essence of life had changed. I'm not dead. I just changed my life form and continued to survive, becoming a set of data. Sudong's consciousness was running at high speed. Sudong did not expect that he could survive, but he was very grateful that he was alive. There is hope in life. It's just that the life form has become a set of data, an invisible flow of information. At this moment, he woke up and quickly absorbed the information. This absorption and digestion took more than a day. In this process, he also understood a lot. It turns out that the most important thing for life is spiritual will. The body can change, the soul can change, but the spiritual will cannot change. Throughout the ages, all immortals have cultivated the 3 souls and 6 spirits. The soul is the soul, and the spirit is the body. What is the dominant one? It is the spiritual will. Not only do people have spiritual will, but a small world also has will. In fact, the small world is also similar to a set of programs. The operation of the rules of the heaven is the operation of this program. When Sudong absorbed these messages, he felt that he was about to be overwhelmed by these huge messages, but he accepted them one by one in an orderly manner. He knew that the mobile phone in the past was just a carrier for absorbing spiritual energy. He also needs a carrier now. Simple data cannot grow and absorb spiritual energy, only a carrier can. In the past, mobile phones could open the app store to download programs because they absorbed spiritual energy and connected to the heavenly network. Spiritual energy is very important, and spiritual essence is the most essence of spiritual energy. Therefore, mobile phones need spiritual essence, and transactions on the heavenly network are also spiritual essence transactions. This book has been updated recently in update. As for the mobile phone as a carrier, because of the limitations of heaven and earth, his previous mobile phone carriers were very low end, with limited space and functions. There are 2 factors that limit the mobile phone carrier. First, Sudong's body itself. His starting point is too low. Second, the limitations of heaven and earth, because heaven and earth are too small. Naturally, there is not too much spiritual energy resources to divert to him. It turns out that, if you want to increase the space of your mobile phone, you need to change the carrier. Sudong was speechless. This is just changing a mobile phone. Receiving many messages lasted for nearly a month. These messages were like a constant stream of turbulent seawater constantly pouring into his consciousness, endless. It was not until a month later that Sudong felt a sense of relief. It was still in the virtual luxury room he created himself. He lay on the sofa, holding a wine glass in his hand, and the swaying red wine flashed in it. These were all virtual. He had no carrier, and no perception at all. It was just a virtual embodiment. His eyes were calm, like the coldest ice, extremely rational and without a trace of emotion. These days, Sudong also understood his own situation and future path. Getting a body as a carrier is the most critical. Not only can I control one body, my current willpower is strong enough to control multiple bodies. But all the living things in this world are protected by the rules of heaven, and I can't influence them. Sudong raised his fingertips, and a string of red light flashed on his fingertips. Now he has all the functional information of the mobile phone in his Dantian in the past, but the premise of all this is to get a carrier, and it needs to absorb a lot of spiritual energy to grow. In short, he has become a mobile phone. I'm now attached to the rules of heaven and earth. I can see the operation of heaven clearly, but I can't influence it, because my spiritual will is not strong enough, and I have enough spying. I can't influence it. Sudong said silently. These days, he also found that he could easily observe any life under the rules of heaven, observe any scene in heaven and earth, and the whole world became a model in front of him, but he could only watch the operation of heaven and earth, and couldn't change or interfere. His string of data ability is not strong enough to change the operation of the program. Need to be improved. However, over the past few days, he also realized the countless lives in the world are just a group of data under the heaven. Death is just the end of this string of data. If the program can be changed, this string of data can still be restored. Sudong had a burning desire. Yes, Sinayang can be resurrected. Sudong's spirit was lifted. He had hoped to resurrect Meng Sinayang. As long as he had the ability to change the operation of the rules of the heaven and earth, there was hope. There was hope. Chapter 279 A bird. There is hope to revive Meng Sinayang, and there is also hope to become the strongest person standing in the void. What does it mean that the essence of life becomes a set of data? It means that Sudong's growth has almost no restrictions. As long as he obtains a carrier, he can grow rapidly. Now he is a unique existence even in the void. This kind of opportunity is simply a dream. As long as he obtains a suitable carrier, becoming a void god is a simple matter. With a little effort, it is only a matter of time to become a god of the heavenly realm, because his life essence is a string of data. This string of data has infinite possibilities. It can be said that, as long as you have a suitable carrier, becoming a strong man in the void and traversing the void is a sure thing. It's useless to think more now. Without a carrier, I'm still a string of data that can do nothing. Sudong began to attach to the heavenly Dao to observe the operation of the entire world. At least he is still alive, and there is hope, as long as he is alive. Sudong began to work hard to find a suitable carrier in the operation of the heavenly Dao rules. The 4 seasons rotate. In the endless ocean, there is a big fish that has cultivated successfully. The big fish is covered with silver scales. Although it has cultivated successfully, it has a deadline. This day is the moment of its death. The big fish came to a corner of the sea where it likes to stay most. Because of its cultivation, it has already opened its spiritual wisdom. This is its cave. It died quietly in this cave. At the moment the big fish died, a string of invisible data suddenly entered its remaining body. Success. In the ocean, the big fish that had already died suddenly opened its eyes again, and a pair of silver fish eyes looked around curiously. The many fish around that were still lying its corpse were startled and immediately dispersed. Sudong controlled the body of the fish to swim happily in the water. This is the world of fish. Memories are short, and this feeling is so strange. Every kind of life has its own unique law of survival. Sudong is a human being, and his main intention is still human. Even if he controls the body of a fish and obtains all the memories and instincts of the fish, he is still a human being. Naturally, he thinks in a human way. Well, this fish comprehends the rules of heaven and can drive the water flow. He freely drives the water flow to form waves, and these waves drive him forward. He is approaching the void temple quickly. Go to the void temple first, because he is the master of the temple. Just when the big fish Sudong was about to swim to that sea area, suddenly, an extremely huge pressure swept behind him, and a hideous and terrifying huge shark quickly caught up from behind. This is my territory. How dare you trespass into my water palace? This shark has also cultivated successfully and can speak human language in the water, roaring at the big fish Sudong. Your territory? Sudong was stunned. The ocean has its own rules for regional divisions, and the territorial consciousness of these big monsters is often extremely strong. It was just a shark monster, so Sudong naturally didn't take it seriously. He subconsciously wanted to activate the mysteries of heaven and earth to wipe it out, but when he activated it, he found that he could only activate a bubble, which floated towards the shark monster with almost no attack power. Snap! The shark monster had no mercy and bit Sudong directly. The huge bite force easily bit the fish Sudong into pieces. Then he swung his tail and left. Sudong, who had once again turned into a string of data, floated between heaven and earth. Too weak. The big fish carrier he controlled was too weak, and it was too far from his original human body. Find a new carrier. Without regret, Sudong continued to attach himself to the rules of heaven, waiting for an opportunity. During this time, he also recorded in detail the rotation of the 4 seasons in the operation of heaven, the alternation of yin and yang, as if it had turned into heaven and earth itself. This kind of experience opportunity is extremely rare in the void. But now he is just a string of data, and can only watch and record, without any understanding. 1 day, 2 days, 1 month, 2 months. Time passed quietly. Sudong worked hard. During this period, he controlled insects, birds, tigers, wild bears and other animals. In the process, his string of data became more and more handy. However, these carriers were destined to die in the end. It seemed that the rules of heaven were intended to maintain the order of life and death. For example, if a life died, Sudong controlled it to come back to life, which was interfering with the operation of the rules of heaven. Therefore, strange crises would be sent to kill this life again. Once, Sudong controlled the big bear, and before he took 3 steps away, an earthquake occurred, the sky collapsed, and the earth cracked, and the big bear fell directly into a crack, and broke into pieces. My string of data is not strong enough. If it is stronger, it can avoid the intervention of the rules of heaven. Sudang also tried to absorb spiritual energy every time he got the opportunity to get a carrier, so that his string of data would gradually grow and grow. Fortunately, in the state of data, time is just a number of recording nodes for him, and Sudang does not feel bored or lonely. After spending a whole year, Sudang finally successfully controlled a strange bird with a 7-color tail. The bird soared in the sky and avoided crisis again and again. It even affected the rules of heaven and thought it was dead. Sudang controlled the body of the bird. He kept flying towards the Void Temple. You know, the Void Temple forbids any living creatures from entering within 1,000 meters, not even birds. This book was recently updated on #@. Update. But this bird spread its wings and flew all the way to the Void Temple without any obstacles and flew into it. As soon as he flew in, he felt Feng Laorong's anxious telepathic communication. After all, his current state of life is different. The cause and effect of this kind of telepathic communication is much weaker. If the distance is not close enough, it cannot be received. Sudang, is it you? Feng Laorongzi anxiously telepathically communicated with the 7-colored bird that flew into the temple. For more than a year, she has been calling for communication. This is a Void Temple. Without the permission of Sudang, the master of the Void Temple, not even a bird can think of entering. But this bird flew in recklessly, and the temple did not stop it. It's me. Sudang also telepathically transmitted to Feng Laorongzi. Suddenly, Feng Laorongzi was shocked and surprised, and extremely excited. Still alive. Sudang is really still alive. How did you become? Feng Laorongzi was shocked and surprised. How did Sudang become a bird? This is a long story. This bird is just a body I control. My current state is very special. Sudang didn't know how to explain it, so he could only explain it vaguely. But Feng Laorongzi was still shocked. You control a body. Can you control many bodies? Is there any limit? She asked hurriedly. Controlling clones and having many bodies is simply a legend in the void. Legends in legends. For the time being, I can only control the ownerless body in this world. The limit depends on the strength of this body. My will has not fully recovered. The bird Sudang telepathically transmitted. His will should have reached the level of the void god now, but he still needs to absorb spiritual energy to recover. With time, his will become stronger and stronger, and the body he controls will be stronger. Feng Laorongzi was completely stunned. Oh my god, she can encounter such a thing. Sudang, you are so lucky. Don't think about controlling the life in this world. They are too weak, and are not your best choice at all. Look at the items left in the stone ghost skull. Look. Feng Laorongzi said excitedly. Sudang was puzzled. Its 2 feet fluttered and jumped. After fluttering on the stone ghost skull, it extended a little consciousness. The stone ghost skull was also ownerless at the moment. It easily opened the space, and suddenly, a Taoist talisman wrapped with strange pressure emerged from it. The talisman flashed with a faint golden light, and the golden light contained endless mysteries. Sudang took a look, and had never seen it before. Maybe he could sense the extraordinariness of this talisman. What is this? Don't know, I tell you. This is a treasure in the void reincarnation talisman that countless people dream of, and want to get in their dreams. Feng Laorongzi said excitedly. Sudang was shocked. Void reincarnation talisman? Chapter 280 Void reincarnation talisman. In the void, there is a spiritual object that came from nowhere, which can make life abandon its original body and reincarnate into the innate creatures of heaven and earth. This is a void reincarnation talisman. It is a treasure that many powerful people in the void are scrambling to grab. Innate creatures, like Feng Luring, came to this seed. She used the void reincarnation talisman to reincarnate in order to escape a disaster. However, the means of the person who wanted to kill her were too terrible. Even though she started the void reincarnation, it was still interrupted and became what she is now, wandering between half-life and half-death. Sudang, you are so lucky. This stone ghost actually has the void reincarnation talisman. Your current state is very suitable for reincarnation in the void. Feng Laorongzi said. In the void, there are too many high-level bloodlines, innate creatures, born suitable for cultivation, and that bloodline is the top bloodline. You have a chance. What's more terrifying is that you can not only control a body. Think about what this means. First of all, it means that you are immortal to some extent, right? Secondly, you can have many clones. Oh my god, this is really terrible. Clone, in the void, is an absolute legend. Even her master, the great Holy Spirit Void Ancestor, has no clone. Clone represents several lives. In the same time, the cultivation perception is several times that of others. In addition to Sudong's life essence state, he is simply an immortal existence. This is the most evil. So evil that Feng Lao Rong Zhi feels perverted and terrible. Sudong's eyes also lit up. He thought of the information about many innate creatures in the void that he had obtained in the past. The worst kind of innate creatures are born with extraordinary talents. With a little practice, they can easily become void gods or heavenly immortals. If they work hard, they can become heavenly gods and immortals. With a little more opportunity, it is easy to become world gods and immortals. The void reincarnation talisman is a treasure that any life in the void dreams of. He actually encountered it. I'm so lucky. He was originally thinking about controlling the life of this world. How can the life of this world be stronger than the innate life born and raised by nature? Imagine if a mobile phone carrier is constructed in the body of an innate creature, what level it would be. There are two necessary conditions for constructing a mobile phone carrier: sufficient spiritual energy resources in the world and a high enough level of life itself. Both are indispensable. A piece of cake. Sudong, I know you paid a lot to kill this beast, but we should look forward. You are still alive, and there is hope. You use the void reincarnation talisman. In the future, you are destined to become a strong man in the void. This is the path you should take. Sudong, there is no need to linger. Use the void reincarnation talisman. Feng Lao Rong Zhi was very excited. In the past, she arranged for Sudong to enter the void and become a void god. Compared with the void reincarnation talisman, it was simply a joke. I understand, but using the void reincarnation talisman requires the void god level. I will still need to absorb spiritual energy. I can only use it when I reach the void god level. Bird Sudong said. Yes, no hurry. It's great that you have the void reincarnation talisman. You can take me with you when you reincarnate in the void. I'm also on the way to reincarnate in the void, and it won't affect you. Feng Lao Rong Zhi has already arranged for Sudong. As for your other treasures, they are all placed in this void temple. The void temple is bound to your spiritual will. As long as your life level reaches a certain level again, it depends on where you will be reincarnated. If it is too far away, you may need the void god level to summon it. But there is no rush. Among these treasures, only the divine Kirin gene, the crystal ball my sister gave you, your battle suit, the sky-piercing spear, and this temple itself have some use value. The others are not worth mentioning. Feng Lao Rongzi smiled. In her eyes, Sudong also had a lot of rags on his body. You should absorb spiritual energy quickly. I feel that you are special now. You absorb spiritual energy very quickly. Feng Lao Rongzi said in surprise. Well, there are some opportunities. If my estimate is correct, I will have to wait for about 50 years before my will can break through the void god. Only then can I use this void reincarnation talisman. Spiritual will is the essence of life. 50 years. Feng Lao Rongzi didn't think it was long at all. 50 years to become a void god. Fast enough. Sudong's estimate was conservative. After all, his data was still similar to that of a newborn baby, very weak, and in urgent need of spiritual energy to grow stronger. Just as Sudong was trying to absorb spiritual energy to strengthen his data in the Void Temple, as time went by, many forces in the world were quietly changing. 2 years had passed since the catastrophe of the Netherlord. 2 years ago, under the 10 Directions extinction array, many strong men died, including the Buddhist Supreme, the Evil King, and many demon kings. Strong men replaced each other, and stronger men emerged, breaking the original pattern. Naturally, there was no shortage of turmoil. As Sudong's prestige reached its peak, a martial arts craze was set off in this world, and many warriors rose up, and there were a lot of martial saints. Among the many warriors, Zheng Dashu, the successor of Sudong, rose even higher. In addition, because his master was the Saint Sudong, his status could be imagined. In a blink of an eye, another 10 years passed. On the Taizhou mountain of the Jin Dynasty, Shengmen is a martial arts sect that has only risen in recent years. The master is Zheng Dashu, the martial arts saint who ranks 12th on the list of contemporary strongmen. Zheng Dashu, the martial arts saint, is good at using a long sword. His skills are extremely mysterious. He can use 3-color divine light. The 3-color divine light contains a strange power that can wipe out many Taoist methods and magical powers. It is regarded as a unique skill by the world. There are many admirers. On this day, the Shengmen was bustling with many immortals, warriors, and court officials gathered here. The lights were decorated, and it was very prosperous. In the largest palace of the Shengmen, a tall young man was wearing a red robe and a high crown. He had a handsome face and 3-color veins between his eyebrows, emitting a strange glow. It was Zheng Dashu, who had already become the master of the Shengmen. In front of Zheng Dashu was Yangan, who was dressed in a gorgeous robe. Yangan was tying a big red flower on Zheng Dashu's chest. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Dashu. Yangan sighed. I watched you grow up, and I know your temper. You have to be patient when you marry Ting Ting. Ting Ting. She is his granddaughter. 10 years ago, Zheng Dashu and Ting Ting met. Both of them were little boys and girls, but they didn't expect that they would become a couple today. Don't worry, Grandpa, I will give in to her in everything. Zheng Dashu nodded respectfully. Although he has become the head of a family and is ranked 12th on the list of the strongest people in the world, Zheng Dashu is still the same as the little boy when facing the old man in front of him. Go and burn incense for your master. We should go out. Yangan urged. Yes. Zheng Dashu respectfully burned incense for Sudong's spirit tablet in the back hall and knelt down to worship. The person he is most grateful and admired in his life is his master. In a blink of an eye, the bride arrived. Yun Zhao Wang, Yang Dan and other family members of the bride arrived, and the new Liwats worshipped the heaven and earth, their parents, and tied the knot in the hall. It was so lively. No one knew that this bustling scene was also projected into the Void Temple. Sudong, who had transformed into a bird and a seed, was looking at the image projected in front of him. Sudong couldn't help laughing. Dashu is also a top-notch expert, but he is still so reserved about getting married. The bird Sudong opened his pointed little mouth and made a chirping laugh. It looks lively, but there are actually undercurrents. Your disciple is in a bad situation now. Oh, here they come, and they are going to make trouble. Feng Lao Rongzi smiled. Sudong also watched and saw that in the picture, 3 people suddenly stood up in the originally bustling hall. The 3 people were all wearing dark blue Taoist robes, and there was a cold green light between their eyebrows. It was obvious that they were not friendly. These Taoist bastards deserve to die. Sudong looked at them coldly. His eyes were calm, but secretly there was a surge of murderous intent. Chapter 281 Strongest List. Since the catastrophe of the Netherlord, almost all the top leaders and strong men in this world have fallen. Those monsters are fine, but the turmoil in your human race is the most severe. Feng Lao Rongxi smiled. Especially because of you, the spirit of warriors is prevalent. In the past 10 years, there have really been several powerful juniors, which naturally arouse the fear of those immortal cultivators. What kind of strong list was drawn up? The number 1 on this strong list is the leader of the Dao sect, King Mingzi, who is known as the best in the world. The top 10 on the strong list are all immortal cultivators. King Mingzi united many of the top 10 immortal cultivators and formulated the new order of the world today. The so-called new order is naturally based on their Dao sect, and they are suppressing warriors openly and secretly. There are several good warriors who were quietly executed as soon as they emerged. Feng Lao Rongxi has been idle these years, and he and Sudong often watch the world. They are very clear about these things. I have met this King Mingzi once. Sudong nodded slightly. Dao sect was originally very powerful in the overseas cultivation world, but it was always suppressed by Buddhism. Now Buddhism has lost its leader, and there is not even a half-step heavenly Dao immortal. It was immediately suppressed by Dao sect, and became the only one in power. King Mingzi also took advantage of the situation to rise. Over the years, many people have also set their sights on your apprentice. After all, you were too legendary back then, and you had many treasures. Although you have a high prestige, who will care about a dead strongman in the face of interests? Feng Laorongzi shook his head. Sudong's reputation is great, but the temptation is also great. In the past 10 years, many strong men have secretly attempted to attack Zhengdashu and Yangon. Fortunately, the Jin Dynasty covered the small town Xianying, and Zhengdashu rose rapidly, so they were spared. However, this cannot stop these people's greed. This King Mingzi has teamed up with several cultivators, ranked at the top of the power list. I don't know how many times he has threatened your disciple, openly or secretly. I didn't expect that he would come on such a happy day today. Feng Laorongzi transmitted his voice in his mind. Sudong's eyes were very cold. Looking at the projection screen in front of him, in the corner of the lively hall, an older Mahayana cultivator among the three sat opposite Zhengdashu. The two people next to him still had a condescending and strong smile on their faces. Although the status of warriors has been improved now, in the hearts of these old-fashioned cultivators, they still look down on warriors. Their lifespans are just there, so they naturally feel arrogant. Congratulations, Master Zheng. The middle-aged man smiled and sighed. Master Zheng is young and promising. He founded the Holy Gate, and is now ranked 12th on the list of the strongest in the world. He is famous all over the world, and has the style of the Holy Lord back then. I dare not. My master is such a hero. I'm still far behind him. Zhengdashu shook his head quickly. Yes, the Holy Master is a great hero, a benefactor to all of us in this world. Even those monsters admire him, and there are people who worship the Holy Master. I also admire him, but not all monsters are like this. Some monsters can still kill and eat people. It is a duty as cultivators to slay monsters and exterminate demons. But slaying monsters and exterminate demons also requires magic weapons and spiritual objects. Right. The middle-aged Taoist smiled. Yes, magic weapons and spiritual objects, secret manuals of skills, no matter if you are a warrior or a cultivator. Zhengdashu smiled and nodded. After 10 years, he has matured a lot, and with his own strength to rely on. He is no longer the little boy who only followed his master. Well, I won't beat around the bush. I came here today. I just want to talk to Master Zheng about a magic weapon, the Great Heaven Suppressing Seal. Master Zheng, do you know the whereabouts of it? The middle-aged Taoist looked at Zhengdashu with a serious face. I don't know. Zhengdashu shook his head directly. Master Kingxiu, you are not the first person to ask me about the Great Heaven Seal. Unfortunately, I really don't know the whereabouts of this magic weapon. If I knew, I would have used it long ago. Don't know? Taoist Kingxiu narrowed his eyes. Master Zheng is the only descendant of the Holy Lord. How could Master Zheng not know where the Great Heaven Seal is? Whether Master Taoist believes it or not, I really don't know. Zhengdashu stood up and smiled at the middle-aged Taoist priest. Today is my big day. Please drink a few more glasses of wedding wine. I still have to meet some elders. Excuse me first. Zhengdashu said, and was about to leave, but the Taoist priest next to him stretched out his palm and pressed directly on Zhengdashu's shoulder. Master Zheng, wait. His palm pressed. Zhengdashu didn't even turn his head, but his eyes suddenly became much colder, and a cold light flashed, and a three-color divine light flashed on his shoulder imperceptibly. The three-color divine light flashed. The palm of the man's hand was immediately bounced away, and the Taoist magic contained in the palm was even swept away. He looked at Zhengdashu's departing back with a face full of surprise. Three-color divine light, sweeping away all the Taoist magic. Amazing. Kingxiu Taoist sighed. The voice transmission reached Zhengdashu's ears, but I still hope that the master knows that no matter how powerful the Holy Lord is, he is dead after all. Now the strongest person in the world is our Taoist sect's supreme elder. People should look forward while they are alive. He was also a little indignant. He didn't know where Zhengdashu practiced martial arts to create such magical powers. Even if he dared to force it, it was still unclear whether he could defeat the former. Moreover, Zhengdashu was the only disciple of the Holy Lord after all. If his Taoist sect dared to openly attack Zhengdashu for no reason, he would immediately become the target of public criticism. Sudong's prestige was too high. The 9 ancestors, the Buddhist sect, and even the evil sect and many monsters were willing to stand up for Sudong. This is the halo You can do whatever you want in secret, but if you put it in the open, it's courting death. Forget it. Let's report the truth to the Grand Elder. Zengdashu is a tough nut to crack. Taoist King Xiu left with his people after drinking a few glasses of wedding wine. Zengdashu, who was entertaining people in the distance, looked at the backs of the people who left, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. But he still had a smile on his face. Today was his big day, and this Taoist sect dared to come to his door to threaten him, and wanted to take action. The last voice transmission made him feel even colder. They are increasingly not taking Master seriously. Do you think I'm a soft persimmon that can be easily squeezed? This book was recently updated in #@. Update. After Taoist King Xiu and the other two left the gate of the Holy Gate, they directly summoned a golden flying boat. The three of them got on the flying boat and flew towards the distance. On the flying boat, the one among the three was still looking at his palm, and a faint blue thunder flashed in his palm. That Zengdashu is really arrogant. The Taoist priest had a gloomy face. If I hadn't been concerned about his master's status, I would have captured him on the spot and refined his 3 souls and 6 spirits to see if he would talk, thinking that the light of the saint can protect him for life. How naive. The 2 Taoist priests looked ugly. Both of them were cultivators who had just reached the Mahayana stage. They had just broken through and were full of energy, but they were defeated by a warrior. Naturally, they found it unbearable. Think about it, Zengdashu is the 12th strongest man on the strongest man list after all, and he still has strength. Taoist King Xiu shook his head. Brother King Xiu, aren't you ranked 10th? Are you afraid of him? The 2 Taoist priests were indignant. Taoist King Xiu stopped talking. On the strongest man list, he was indeed higher than Zengdashu. What do you think that is? Whoosh. A small grain of sand flew in front of them with a stream of light, directly surpassing their flying boat, and then reflected the dim light, and a figure walked out of the light. The 3 of them were startled. The figure that appeared was wearing a red robe, holding a long sword in his hand, standing tall and handsome in the void. Zengdashu. Master Zeng. The 3 of them were startled, and their faces changed slightly at the same time. But before they could react, 3 color streamers of sword light had already shot out in front of them. The speed of the sword light reached the limit of heaven and earth. They had no time to block it, and could only support the Taoist defense at the first time. But the magical thing was that their Taoist defense was automatically brushed off as soon as it came into contact with the 3-color divine light, and then the sword light instantly penetrated their Dantian, tore their Yuanying, and they died. With one sword, he killed 3 Mahayana monks of Dao sect. This kind of strength. If the outside world knew about it, I'm afraid he would be ranked in the top 5 of the strong list. But few people knew about Zengdashu's strength, and he didn't like others to know it. Zengdashu stood in the air, collected the flying boat and the items left by the 3 people, and with a wave of his hand, he directly destroyed the bodies of the 3 people. Chapter 282 Data Core. After easily dealing with the 3 Mahayana cultivators of Dao sect, Zengdashu looked into the distance with his eyes narrowed. My master is gone. So you think that there is no one in the Jin Dynasty? You overseas cultivators dare to come to my sect and threaten me at will? You want to find the great heaven suppressing seal left by my master? Just you? I didn't want to kill anyone on my wedding day, but I'll let you go back. You will kill me next time. In the past 10 years, he has been secretly assassinated countless times, with many strange means and many cruel Taoist methods. If he had a kind heart, and not fierce means, he would have died countless times. When dealing with enemies, you should kill them when you should, and you must not show mercy. Moreover, Zengdashu has a defective character. When he was young, he witnessed his entire village being killed by monsters. In his bones, Zengdashu is not afraid of killing at all. Once upon a time, many people said that Zengdashu had a defective character when they saw him, and he was afraid that he would go crazy in the future. Fortunately, he has a good master who not only treats him like his own son, passing him the skills, teaching him and raising him, and even giving him the most precious treasures of Buddhism. Master is the most inviolable part of Zengdashu's heart. Dare to mention his master in front of him? What made Zheng Dashu most angry was not that these three people came to disgust him on his big day, but the last voice transmission of King Xiu Taoist, saying that his master is dead. Why did his master die? Question mark. The Taoist Grand Elder is the best in the world. Bullshit. Just you dare to talk about my master? Zheng Dashu cleaned up the scene, and then drove the Jiuhua Mountain Shyandis Iron Cave mansion back to the Holy Gate again. After a while, no one knew that he, the groom, the master of the Holy Gate, had killed 3 Mahayana monks, and he was in a good mood, and continued to toast in the hall. This scene was seen clearly by Sudong and Fenglao Rongzi in the Void Temple. TSK, the murderer Sora is so strong. Sudong, what can I say? Your disciple has a flawed character, and his murderer Sora is far stronger than yours. Fenglao Rongzi said with a smile. Those people deserve to be killed. What's wrong with killing those who deserve to be killed? Sudong admired it very much. If Zheng Dashu was cowardly and incompetent, he would be worried. Now it makes him feel much more at ease. The road of the strong should be decisive in killing. During this period of time, he has become a data life form, and he feels that his whole character has changed a lot. Fighting, life and death, all of them are extremely thorough. Perhaps it is because he has watched the operation of the Way of Heaven for a long time. He not only looks at humans, but also monsters and many inconspicuous animals. Over time, his previous system of good and evil has also changed. More indifferent. It is not that Sudong is no longer kind. He is still the same him, but his vision is different. His character has improved, and his mentality is naturally different. In the past 10 years, I don't know how many people want to kill Dashu, just for the Great Heaven Seal. Haha, you asked Dashu for the Great Heaven Seal, but it's a pity that Dashu doesn't have it. The Great Heaven Seal is in the Void Temple at this moment. It's almost there, my data will is almost there, and it can be restored to the level of Martial Saint, and then I can control the power of the secrets to some extent. The bird Sudong lowered his head. On the forehead of this bird, there is a golden prismatic crystal interwoven with countless strange lines. This crystal is composed of countless golden lines, with a total of 6 sides, and the size is only the size of the tip of the little finger. Each side is covered with countless mysterious and strange secret patterns. This crystal is golden and translucent. It radiates golden light from the inside out. This crystal is the core of Sudong's life at this moment. It is the state of Sudong's data condensed into substance. It can also be transformed into a virtual existence and attached to the rules of the heavenly Dao. Of course, this state is the weakest state, and it can't do anything, and the crystal's substantial state can mobilize the power of will. As long as the life core is not destroyed, even if Sudong's body and soul are broken, he will still be alive. As long as the data is not destroyed, it will eventually find a new carrier. Inside the life core, this vast interior is like a golden starry sky, with a full 361 stars surrounding it beautifully. Sudong still hasn't figured out these 361 stars, but he can vaguely feel that his ability to become a data state is inseparable from these 361 stars, and his data growth path is also inseparable from these stars. The growth of the data core is to light up the stars. While Sudong was constantly absorbing spiritual energy to strengthen his data, he also sensed that as his data was strengthened, one of the 361 stars was constantly being lit up, from the beginning of dim light, to gradually shining brightly, emitting endless light. That star is similar to a node, a height. When his data strength reaches a certain level, it can light up a star. This is an independent cultivation system. Even through the knowledge in the void, Sudong has never heard of such a cultivation system, and even Sudong dared not tell Fenglao Rongzi about it. Such a secret, even if it is leaked a little bit, will bring disaster to oneself. 10 years. It took 10 years for the first star in my data core to be fully lit up, and my spiritual will is about to recover to the level of Martial Saint. At this rate, maybe it won't take 50 years for me to reach the level of Void God. Sudong had a hunch that maybe, when the first star is fully lit up, it will be the time when his spiritual will recover to the level of Void God. But if so, when he lights up 361 stars, what realm will it be? Sudong dared not imagine. Sudong was waiting. Fenglao Rongzi was also waiting. Night fell. Many guests in the Taizhou Mountain Sane Gate dispersed. Those who rested, while Zheng Dashu and his wife gathered with his adoptive father Yangan, mother-in-law Yang Dan, father-in-law Yun Zhaowang Shizi, Yun Zhaowang and other relatives. It was warm. Today, the ancestor heard that Dashu was getting married, so he had to come out, even if he was in seclusion. Thanks to Dashu's personal message, he didn't come. The ancestor cares about Dashu very much, and he also said that he wants Dashu's children to practice with him in the future. The king of Yun's house smiled. In the past, it was Sudong, and now it is Zheng Dashu. They are both the pillars of the Jin Dynasty, and the ancestor of the Jin Dynasty certainly attaches great importance to them. Now that Sudong is gone, and Li Xiangai is dead, the only ones who can control the situation in the Jin Dynasty are the ancestor of the Jin Dynasty and Zheng Dashu. The others, such as the Jin Emperor and the true Lord of Shifen Pavilion, are far behind. The ancestor is indeed very good to my husband. Ting Ting also nodded at the side. Everyone was having a good time and talking. Suddenly, a layer of spiritual light spread in, and except for Zheng Dashu, the rest of the people in the room were stiff and stagnant, unable to move, with only a pair of eyes that could move, and everyone looked outside in fear. This book has been updated recently in @ Update. A figure in a dark blue Taoist robe walked in with a cold smile on his face. Master Zheng, long time no see. He walked in and sat at the top, looking down on everyone. King Mingzi, what are you doing here? Zheng Dashu's face was cold, and he was emitting golden, red and silver divine light. The divine light repelled the spiritual light, but he was obviously at a disadvantage and was suppressed. Nothing, just came to Master Zheng to ask for an explanation. The 3 disciples I sent to congratulate you have not returned yet, and their life talismans are broken. Can Master Zheng give me an explanation? King Mingzi said indifferently. He, the supreme elder of the Taoist sect, a top half-step immortal, was one step away from transcending the world and becoming an immortal. Now he is recognized as the best in the world. It's ridiculous. You came here for my master's treasure. Zheng Dashu's face was cold. King Mingzi smiled. That's right. There's no one else here. I'm too lazy to beat around the bush with you. Your 3-color divine light is extraordinary, but you're still not my opponent. Hand over the treasures left by Sudong, and I'll spare your lives. King Mingzi sneered. Zheng Dashu's face was ugly and livid. If he was alone at this moment, he would fight to the death. But now his wife and family are here. He was afraid of the consequences. He could only let King Mingzi run rampant. Hand it over, and the Buddhist rosary, the most precious treasure. King Mingzi smiled. I remind you, don't overestimate your own abilities, and do something stupid. He said, looking at Yangan and Yang Tingting. Arsehole. Zheng Dashu stood there, and looked at King Mingzi, who seemed to be high above him, with his steel teeth clenched. What to do? What should he do? Even if he gave King Mingzi the rosary, the latter would not be satisfied. He was greedy. He couldn't take out the Great Heaven Seal. Just as they were confronting each other, a small bird with a colorful tail slowly flew over the wall, and then flew into the house without stopping. In the aura filled with spiritual light, King Mingzi and Zheng Dashu both looked in astonishment, and then flew to Yangan's shoulder. Chapter 283 Final Departure. King Mingzi looked at the bird, its 7-colored tail trembling gently, and a pair of black eyes staring at him without blinking. This is within the scope of his heavenly Dao domain. Even Zheng Dashu could only protect himself when he used the 3-colored divine light. Others, such as Yun Zhaowang and other immortal cultivators, could only be imprisoned. A bird flew in for no reason? Huh. That look. King Mingzi's body trembled slightly. He looked at the bird that landed on Yangan's shoulder and suddenly felt terrified in his heart. That look, how could it be so scary? Impossible, impossible. Since the death of the Lord of the Netherworld, I have never seen such a scary look. Just the look makes me feel scared. His state of mind was actually in a panic because of a bird. But Zheng Dashu stared at the bird in a daze. It was just an ordinary bird, but its tail was colorful. There were so many kinds of monsters in the world, and a bird with a colorful tail was nothing. But when he looked at the bird, he felt familiar and gentle, and even his eyes were wet. King Mingzi, I didn't see you when we went to stop the Stone Ghost clan, but now you show up. Sudang, who controlled the bird's body, stood on Yangen's shoulder and transmitted his voice through his will. He looked at King Mingzi with cold eyes, and his eyes seemed to contain raging flames. You hide when dealing with strong enemies, but you are so energetic when dealing with these weak ones. I really look down on you. Sudang flapped his wings, just a light flap. Whoosh! A brilliant knife light condensed out of thin air. The knife light was snow white, but extremely dazzling and brilliant, and it instantly cut through the space. No, no, no. King Ming's eyes were wide open. He was even more terrified when he heard the voice transmission. As if he had seen a ghost, his face flushed red, and he frantically mobilized the spiritual light in the room. The spiritual light in the whole room was boiling, and wanted to gather in front of him to block the knife light. But the knife light was unmatched, and easily penetrated the space to reach him. Boom. King Mingzi only felt a white knife light in front of him. Then it was dark, and he felt that his soul was torn apart by the knife light at this moment, and turned into nothingness. There was a little blood on his forehead, and then he fell to the ground. There was no life at all. But the bird was not satisfied at all. Humph, do you think I don't know the demon body of your Tao heart cultivation? Sudang turned into a bird, and fluttered up, and flew out of the room. When flying past Zhengdashu, a storage bag appeared out of thin air, and fell directly into Zhengdashu's hands. After a pair of black eyes took a last look at Zhengdashu and Yangen, they flew out of the room and disappeared. Ah, the Taoist Grand Elder is dead. Killed by a bird? The king of Yangtao and the others were able to move, looking at King Ming's body in horror, while Yangen sat there blankly, stroking his shoulder with his hand. The bird didn't look for anyone, but just stood on his shoulder. Zhengdashu was holding the storage bag, standing there like a wooden chicken, as if he was completely stupid. In the clouds outside Taizhou Mountain, a luxurious flying boat was filled with many beautiful maids and servants serving a middle-aged man in a black robe. The man originally looked relaxed and enjoyed himself, but suddenly his whole body sat up straight. His face was even more ugly and tense, and his eyes full of evil spirits burst out with a heart-pounding horror. He is also the body of King Mingzi, the Taoist Grand Elder. Because he cultivated the Dao heart and the magic Dao, he had two bodies. One of them was in charge of the Dao sect, the leader of the righteous Dao, the strongest person in the world, strict with himself, and never enjoyed himself. The other never practiced, but was devoted to enjoyment and indulgence. Sometimes he would kill for trivial matters, and even tried every means to kill many people who hindered him for a mortal woman. He just wanted to enjoy the pleasure brought to him by this process. When the Lord of the Underworld came, many half-step heavenly Dao cultivators went to stop him, but he didn't go. At that time, his righteous body wanted to pursue a breakthrough in the end, while his demon body was completely addicted to pleasure and went with the flow. Unexpectedly, the catastrophe of the Lord of the Underworld was over, and not only was it over, but many of the strong people who suppressed him in the past were dead. His time has come. He became the best in the world, but he was not satisfied. He wanted to have more magic treasures and items. He wanted the best magic treasures, just like the Great Heaven Seal that Sudang sacrificed that day. Sudang was too stupid. He used the Great Heaven Seal to deal with the Lord of the Netherworld. He was different. He wanted to use the Great Heaven Seal to dominate the world. The most important thing was that he got the inheritance message and got the void boat. He could take the void boat into the void and break through the last step to become a heavenly immortal, transcend the shackles of heaven and earth, live as long as the sky, and shine as brightly as the sun and the moon. His ambition was not small. No one could stop him. But unexpectedly, Sudang is still alive. Inside the flying boat, the face of the demon body King Mingzi changed drastically, and his heart was in chaos. The moment he received the message of Sudang's will, his mind was in chaos. When the righteous body died, he was even more desperate. If he was afraid of death, his demon body was more afraid of death. He was insatiable, addicted to pleasure, and destined to be greedy for the world, and unwilling to die. If it was someone else, he would still have the mind to fight back, but knowing that it was Sudang, he didn't even have the heart to escape and fight back. Escape? Where can he escape to? The Great Heaven Seal was activated, and this world was ruled by Sudang. The Netherworld ruler who had hidden so deeply was found. It's over. It's over. I shouldn't have coveted Sudong's magic weapon, and I shouldn't have attacked Zengdashu. He kept shaking his head anxiously, painfully regretful. The maids and servants beside him didn't know what was going on, and they all stood there trembling. Their master had a very strange personality, and was extremely powerful. Killing them was like killing chickens. Suddenly, a bird with colorful feathers flew in. Many maids and servants saw it. Saint, spare me, Saint, spare me. It's my fault. King Ming's demon body looks exactly like the original body. It is said that the demon in the heart of Taoism can split a person's personality into two, and both of them are part of oneself, which has a miraculous effect on Taoism practice. However, it is harmful to the strengthening of the body. Therefore, King Mingzi has never been able to defeat the leader of Buddhism in the past, because the leader of Buddhism practiced the golden body and restrained him by force to break the law. This book was recently updated on update. And Sudong, he needed to look up to. The demon King Mingzi kept begging for mercy, even crying bitterly, without the slightest sign of a top powerhouse. But the bird controlled by Sudong flew in. Without any hesitation, and not bothering to listen to his begging, it flapped its wings directly. A dazzling knife light burst out, instantly piercing King Ming's head, crushing his nascent soul, and then turned around, and flew away without stopping. Only the maids and servants who were stunned in the flying boat were left. Their terrible master was dead, killed by a bird. Zengdashu and others did not publicize King Ming's death, and Aozan did not disclose it. It had been covered up for a long time. It was not known until a long time later, and naturally it also set off a wave of waves. And Sudong slowly appreciated the changes in the world, and also paid attention to his adoptive father Yangon and Zengdashu. Time passed, and another 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. During this period, many people spread that Sudong was not dead, and they all came to stop outside the Void Temple. Yangon, Zengdashu, the ancestors of the Jin Dynasty, the Emperor of Jin, Linjin and his wife, Qin Liuniang of the 9 ancestors, Suking of the Qingshan Sword Sect, Lian Yateo and others have come to see him. They are eager to see Sudong again. But Sudong just waited in the temple. 5 years later. You don't want to talk to your apprentice? Fenglao Rangzi looked at Zengdashu who was standing respectfully, and looked at him from a distance outside the temple again, and said telepathically, I have given him everything I should give, and I'm very satisfied with him. It's enough. It will only make me sadder if we meet again. Sudong stretched out his wings. Fenglao, we should leave here. Leave. Fenglao Rangzi was stunned, then reacted. Have you broken through? Yes, I broke through yesterday, and I can use the reincarnation talisman today. A golden light emerged from Sudong's eyebrows, and a brilliant prismatic crystal burst out with vast brilliance. This brilliance illuminated the Void Temple and the world. Void reincarnation. Fenglao Rangzi was also happy and excited. That night, all the creatures in the world saw a golden light bursting out from the horizon. The golden light penetrated the sky and caused a shock in the world. That night, Zengdashu also saw the golden light. In his hand was a gravel cave in which there was a dazzling and exquisite crystal flying boat. It was a void boat that could fly into the void. Master, goodbye. End of this volume. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 9 Realms of the World. Boom. When the Void Rebirth Talisman was activated, Sudong felt his entire will suddenly roar. During the roar, Sudong seemed to see the world in front of him shaking, and his data core was brutally extracted from the bird's body. Extracting will, spiritual will is the foundation of a life. Sudong only felt the extraordinary nature of the Void Rebirth Talisman at this moment, and then everything in front of him was blank, and he knew nothing. In the golden light of the Void Rebirth Talisman, a seed that seemed to exist and not exist was also wrapped and left, as if a force of the same origin was carrying her forward. The last time I used the Void Rebirth Talisman, I was affected and eventually fainted. This time, I want to see what secrets this Void Rebirth has. Feng Lao Rongzi maintained the seed form, wanting to glimpse the mystery of void rebirth. The void rebirth talisman is a top-notch treasure in the void. It has always been fought over by many powerful people, but I have never heard of anyone exploring the secret of void rebirth. As the golden light enveloped them, Feng Lao Rongzi seemed to see the void reincarnation talisman transformed into a human figure. What? The reincarnation talisman transformed? Feng Lao Rongzi was shocked. But then her eyes went dark, and she lost all consciousness. In a place far away in the void, there was a man holding a cane, knocking on a huge tortoise shell next to a wooden house. A faint light lingered on his body, and there was an endless starry sky in his eyes. Across the long distance in time and space, the old man felt something, and turned his head to look at Sudang. A smile suddenly appeared on the corner of his mouth. What a special life. I have a destiny with you. You should enter my door. Go. The old man, who seemed to have an endless starry sky in his eyes, raised the cane in his hand and pointed, with a smile on his face. The strong are sharpened by grinding, and I will give you some grinding. Sudang's data core, which was suddenly wrapped in golden light, changed its direction in an instant under an incredible and unimaginable power, and quickly passed through the void, time and space, and flew to an extremely vast world. It flew straight into a stone. When Sudang regained consciousness, he only felt that his data core was in a mess, and the prismatic crystal structure was shaking. Many memories were confused. He suddenly felt a sense of relief, followed by a biting cold and comfortable. At the same time, a strong and rich spiritual energy was infused into his body. The concentration of this spiritual energy was comparable to that of the Void Temple, and the speed of his body absorbing it was more than 100 times faster than when he was in the bird's body before. Under this spiritual energy infusion, Sudang could even feel that the second star in his data core began to light up. Although it was still very far from being fully lit, it had begun to improve at this moment. His cultivation system was to absorb spiritual energy, light up the formation, and improve the data core. It is obvious that my body is much stronger than that bad now, and the spiritual energy of this world is also extremely rich. Sudang felt it. Then, he heard a click sound in his ear. It was like the sound of stones breaking. Born. A very pleasant voice sounded. The birth of the 5-colored divine stone. How noble is a bloodline. Another upright and peaceful voice sounded. My father died for this 5-colored divine stone. And finally the heavens did not let down my Xiangquan clan. 5-colored divine stone. Xiangquan clan. Sudang reacted immediately. Yes, I succeeded in my void reincarnation, and I'm a congenital creature. Congenital creatures may be sacred trees, sacred stones, sacred water, and so on. In short, they are born from heaven and earth, and can inhale and exhale the essence of the sun and the moon, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and their root bone qualifications are extraordinary. Just by feeling the rapidly increasing spiritual energy in the data core at this moment, Sudang also knew that this choice was right. Void reincarnation is indeed extraordinary. Sudang opened his eyes and saw many figures standing in front of him. He sat naked on a stone plate with 5-color light all over his body. The people in front of him were all very tall. But Sudang immediately reacted. It was not that these people were tall, but that he was too small. Even congenital creatures are babies when they are born. As expected of an innate creature, it didn't cry or make a fuss when it was born, and its eyes are full of spirit. A beautiful woman looked at the baby in front of her. Although he was a baby, Sudang's consciousness was still there. He felt a little uncomfortable being looked at by so many people with his bare bottom. Innate creatures all have their own inherited memories. You all step back and stop looking. The middle-aged man in the lead waved his hand, and the many women in the room stepped back, leaving only the middle-aged man with a young man to walk in front of Sudang, and the middle-aged man picked up Sudang. Sudang's eyes swept over the middle-aged man, and the will of the void god easily felt the same level of pressure from the latter. Obviously, the middle-aged man in front of him was a void god. It was indeed a big world, and the void god could be seen casually. This middle-aged man was handsome, and his face had a unique warmth that made people want to get close to him. There were 3 blue secret patterns on his forehead, and he was wearing a gorgeous robe. The young man next to him looked 8 points like him, but his expression was much colder. They were in a spacious and luxurious house. The furnishings in the house were all exquisitely carved sacred trees, which were gorgeous like works of art. There were also crystal stones emitting light on the walls of the house. The light emitted by the crystal stones could calm people's minds and look very luxurious. This should be a palace. It is so well decorated. This family is not ordinary. Sudang, who was in the infant state, thought to himself. However, the void god can travel in the void, so it is normal that he has an extraordinary status in the world. This book has been updated recently in @ Update. Kinga, he will be your brother in the future. You must take good care of him and protect him. The middle-aged man warned. But he is just a congenital creature born from a broken 5-colored stone. There is no strange phenomenon at birth. His qualifications should be very ordinary. The young man said reluctantly. Even if his qualifications are ordinary, your grandfather saved him with his life. The middle-aged man's eyes were full of tenderness. Even if he is not a congenital creature, he is also a descendant of my Shyanquan family. The young man stopped talking. Sudang understood. Broken 5-colored stone. What's going on? The conditions for his reincarnation in the void don't seem to be very good. Sudang didn't know that someone had tampered with him during his reincarnation, which gave him a lot of hardships. Let's go see the clan leader. Then, the middle-aged man took Sudang to see many elders. In the process, Sudang gradually learned that the world he was in was called the Nine Realms world, which governed thousands of small worlds, and the one that ruled the Nine Realms world was the Nine Realms ancient country. The Shyanquan clan was just one of the Nine Realms worlds, governing 90,000 miles from north to south and east to west. Within 90,000 miles, many towns and tribes belonged to the Shyanquan clan's foundation. Simply put, 90,000 miles were all the territories given to the Shyanquan clan by the Nine Realms ancient country. The Shyanquan clan was the owner of these 90,000 miles. The Shyanquan clan was a very old and large family. There was a god of heaven and 16 void gods in the clan. Among them, Shyanquan Liang, who ranked 9th because he mastered 3 powers. The void god had a very high status in the family, and mastering 3 powers could even make it into the top 10. The Shyanquan clan is not small, but the Nine Realms is too big. The Nine Realms ancient kingdom rules over many worlds. It is said that under the rule of the Nine Realms ancient kingdom, there are even many surrounding small worlds that are dedicated to serving the Nine Realms great world, providing protection, spiritual objects, etc. Thousands of small worlds serve one world, and the Nine Realms ancient kingdom has existed for who knows how long, so long that it is almost eternal. Such a huge thing really shocked Sudang. This is the great world, the real great world. Chapter 285 Shyanquan Clan. This is a vast and boundless world, a stage for the strong. The void god in the heavenly Deo immortal can only be regarded as having the qualifications to walk around the world. Below the two, they don't even have the qualifications to go out. The two people Sudang is closest to in the Nine Realms are Shyanquan Liang, who, his nominal father, who is powerful and has a high status in the Shyanquan clan. The other is Shyanquan King, a little guy from the second heaven who mainly practices the heavenly Deo immortal law and supplements the void flow. This world has unified the division between the void god and the heavenly Deo immortal, positioning them as the third heaven. After the third heaven, no matter whether you break through to become a heavenly Deo immortal or a void god, your status will be greatly improved. The 5-colored divine stone that Sudang was born from was obtained by Shyanquan Liang, whose father at the cost of his life. When he got it, he already knew that it was pregnant with a spirit fetus. However, the 5-colored divine stone was damaged during the struggle, and Shyanquan Liang, whose father was seriously injured because of it. He died not long after returning to the Shyanquan clan. It took another 100 years for the 5-colored divine stone to give birth to Sudang. Shyanquan Liang, who regards Sudang as his own son because of his father's favoritism, Shyanquan King, the real heir, was very unhappy. If he was unhappy, then so be it. Sudang didn't take him seriously. That night, Sudang was alone in the room, and outside the room were the maids who served respectfully. Sudang didn't cry or make a fuss, so naturally he didn't need their care. When they were in the room, Sudang opened his eyes to see them, and didn't sleep. He closed his eyes only when they were gone. Naturally, they didn't dare to stay any longer. There was a faint seed mark on Sudong's palm. Feng Lao hasn't woken up yet. I'm a congenital creature, and I should have inherited memories and innate magical powers, but I was damaged before. These inherited memories and innate magical powers seem to need the treasures of heaven and earth to awaken. Sudong checked himself. He had a vague premonition. This innate magical power and inherited memory must be awakened. But the most important thing is to construct my mobile phone carrier. Now my body is an innate spiritual body. The spiritual energy of this world is 100 times richer than the small world in the past. It is enough for me to condense a mobile phone carrier. The mobile phone in Dantian is the foundation of his data extension. It is the top priority and cannot be delayed. In comparison, awakening his innate spiritual talent is secondary. Closing his eyes, Sudong raised his small hands to his eyebrows. Suddenly, 6 prism-shaped crystals emerged from his eyebrows, flashing a golden wonderful light, madly absorbing the spiritual power between heaven and earth, and then all of it was poured into Sudong's Dantian at this moment. Sudong felt that his data core passed through layers of space obstacles, constantly shuttling and converging. Finally, it gathered in his Dantian. Gradually, this vast spiritual power gathered into a golden egg, constantly converging and compressing. Inside Sudong's Dantian. At this moment, the Dantian is countless times larger than before. Innate creatures are naturally suitable for absorbing and exhaling the essence of the sun and the moon, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and the internal space of the Dantian is even more vast. It is even larger than the inner world that Sudong cultivated in the past. In this Dantian, at this moment, in its central position, there is a dazzling sphere that emits light, like a small golden sun, slowly rotating. This is the state when Sudong absorbs spiritual energy and condenses the mobile phone into shape. I guess it will take a long time to condense the mobile phone carrier for the first time. Don't worry, take your time. Sudong's small body sat cross-legged on the bed, absorbing the essence of the sun and the moon, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It not only condenses the mobile phone in the Dantian, but also improves his own strength. The next day, Xiangqun Liang who came to see Sudong again, and brought a treasure of heaven and earth for Sudong to take. It is said that it can help innate creatures awaken inherited memories and talents. Sudong had to say that having a good background is different. It's just that Xiangqun King's expression when he watched him swallow the treasure of heaven and earth seemed to be a little jealous and crazy. Sudong swallowed the treasure of heaven and earth. The treasure of heaven and earth is called Earth Spirit Fruit. It is a kind of innate treasure. It is very valuable. Even Xiangqun Liang who spent a lot of money to get it. After Sudong swallowed it, he felt that his blood and bones had improved a lot, but he was still far from awakening the inherited memory and talent. But this also made Sudong's heart warm. While constantly absorbing spiritual energy, improving data strength, and nurturing the mobile phone in Dantian, he was occasionally carried out by Xiangqun Liang who, in a blink of an eye, a year passed. Sudong's innate blood advantage of living creatures appeared. In just 1 year, he grew into a little boy, about 1.6 meters tall, with red lips and white teeth, except that he was a little thin. In a year, Sudong's pure physical strength has reached the scale of the past martial saint period, and what is even more difficult to see and precious is that his comprehension is extremely high, and he is born with a sense of Taoism, but he has not yet come into contact with the immortal Taoism, so he has not practiced it. Even so, Xiangqun Liang who can feel that Sudong has an amazing affinity with the heavenly way. Last time in the small world of Jin Dynasty, I couldn't get the recognition of the rules of heaven, but in this big world of 9 realms, the rules of heaven are so friendly to me. Sudong sighed. This is another powerful aspect of innate creatures. He is extremely keen in understanding certain aspects of heaven. However, in order not to be too evil, his mind is still in his infancy. On this day, Xiangqun Liang who brought Sudong and Xiangqun King to a palace of Xiangqun clan, called Qian Palace. There were dozens of guards standing motionless outside the Qian Palace. Behind each guard was a terrible monster, or a black tiger, or a silver white lion king, and a tall and mighty AO dog, all kinds of strange monsters. Sudong sighed in his heart when he saw it. He had been reincarnated in this world for a year. He also knew that there were monsters in this world, but humans still kept monsters in captivity. Some monsters and humans had a good relationship like family members. Of course, there are also monsters that eat people, and there are also many people who eat monsters. Walking into the palace, it was very lively. There were long tables on both sides, and men and women in gorgeous robes took their seats. At the top was an old man with white hair and eyebrows. This book was recently updated on #@. Update. Liang Hu, you are late, so I will punish you with a glass of wine first. The old man smiled and waved his hand. A wine glass filled with fine wine on the long table came to Xiangqun Liang Hu. Sudong did not see the trajectory of the wine glass flying over. Xiangqun Bishan, who ranks third among the Xiangqun clan strongmen, is a 4th level Xianshandao immortal who controls 4 parts of power. Sudong was amazed in his heart, and he was unwilling to look up at Xiangqun Bishan, because looking at him would sting his eyes like a needle. A 4th level Xianshandao immortal who controls 4 parts of power is a whole level stronger than Xiangqun Liang Hu, who is also a 4th level void god, but controls 3 parts of power. Brother Bishan, this is my second son, a congenital creature. Xiangqun Liang Hu took the wine glass and drank the wine, then pulled Sudong's shoulder and said with a smile, "Oh, is this the 5-colored stone that Uncle Boyang brought back that year? Come here and let me take a look." The white-haired old man Xiangqun Bishan waved his hand directly, and Sudong's body flew in front of Xiangqun Bishan involuntarily, standing obediently beside him. Too scary. This 4-level heavenly immortal who controls 4 powers is really too scary. Yes, he is very handsome, with spiritual energy infused on his head. It is said that he was born with 5-colored stones. He is born with a unique understanding of the 2 ways of yin and yang. He will definitely be extraordinary in the future. Xiangqun Bishan smiled, and he smiled and glanced at Xiangqun Bihu. Does he have a name? No, he is a congenital creature. He wants to wait for the inheritance memory to awaken, and he will go to get it himself. Xiangqun Liang Hu looked at Sudong dotingly. This is a kind of respect for the congenital creature, so as not to be dissatisfied after awakening the inheritance memory in the future. Xiangqun Bishan understood, and his star-like eyes under his white hair and eyebrows looked at Sudong with love. Uncle Boyang once saved my life from a monster, and I didn't have a chance to repay him. Since you haven't awakened your inherited memory, so be it. Then let's do this. I'll give him that innate extreme spiritual fruit. Brother, no. Before Xiangqun Bishan finished speaking, a shout suddenly came from below, interrupting Xiangqun Bishan's words. Sudong was shocked. Who dared to talk to Xiangqun Bishan like this? Sudong looked in the direction of the shout, and immediately saw a tall and majestic figure like an iron tower standing in the hall, with a face full of vigorous beard looking at him angrily. Chapter 286 Xiangqun Sudong. Not only was he furious, Sudong also saw that the back of the big man's head seemed to condense into electric snakes. The electric snakes were so agitated and terrifying. He stared at Sudong angrily, as if Sudong had made him so angry. He stood up and strode forward. A bunch of blue electric snakes flashed behind his head as he walked. People in the hall covered their eyes. He stepped forward and growled, "Innate extreme spirit fruit. Only one matures every 3,000 years. It is so precious, but we are reluctant to use it, and just gave it to this little guy. This is an innate creature after all, and it is worth cultivating." Xiangqun Bishan smiled. The innate creatures are blessed by nature, and almost every innate creature is destined to grow into a void god easily. If they have better talents, it is not difficult to become a heavenly immortal. What they care about most is the talent of the innate creature. The talent of an innate creature determines the strength of this innate creature. Some innate creatures are born with abnormal talents, which can be called against the sky, but some are a little worse, but they are also destined to be extraordinary. That's for other innate creatures. This colorful petrified innate creature is ordinary at first glance. Brother, don't treat him specially, because of Uncle Boyang's kindness. It's okay for an innate creature to not directly awaken the inherited memory and talent. Look at his body, how weak it is. There is not even a horn on his head. Xiangqun Bi laughed and looked at Sudong with mockery. Sudong raised his head and glanced at the big man. Not all innate creatures have horns. Xiangqun Bishan frowned. His brother said he was biased, and in fact, he was a little biased. Sudang's qualifications can be seen at a glance. Among the innate creatures, it is poor. Otherwise, he would not have praised his appearance. They are such strong people. They have seen all kinds of faces. What they value is naturally the potential of qualifications. Only those with potential are worth cultivating. Haha. B. Do you think all innate creatures have strange looks like those of the Zenmu family? Someone laughed. At least other people's innate creatures are strong, and their talents are powerful. The second level can control the power, and they will be our biggest enemy in the future. Xiangqunbi looked at Xiangqun Lianghu with an unpleasant expression. Lianghu, don't blame your brother for being ruthless. You, an innate creature, are indeed weak. The resources in the family must be used on the cutting edge. The strong family members are fighting with the monsters. How many people in the 90,000 miles of our Xiangqun family are coveting to replace us? What do we rely on to maintain the prosperity of the family? It's the efforts of the strong family members. If you pay, you should be rewarded. This innate extreme spiritual fruit should naturally be given to the strong who have made contributions. Otherwise others will be chilled. I have killed countless monsters for my family and fought no less than 100 times. Is my contribution enough to exchange for this spiritual fruit? Xiangqun Lianghu's face was cold. He brought Sudang here today just for the innate extreme spiritual fruit. Who would have thought that Xiangqunbi would suddenly come out to stop him? Your contribution? Your contribution is great, but the family has long stipulated that the younger generation should be treated with more care, and that the elders' contributions cannot benefit the younger generation. Have you forgotten this? Xiangqunbi sneered. Xiangqun Lianghu looked at the seemingly rough man. There was nothing to say for a moment. In order to keep the disciples in the family active and produce more strong people, the Xiangqun clan was actually extremely strict when training the younger generation. Okay, I think this way, this innate extreme spiritual fruit will be set as a gift for adulthood in 4 years. When the younger disciple performs well enough, this spiritual fruit will belong to him. Xiangqun Bishan shouted. His eyes swept across the hall, and no one dared to look directly at him. They all felt the same pain in their eyes as Sudang. 4 years. Too long. After 4 years, this innate creature will naturally be stronger than ordinary juniors. Just 1 year. Let him participate in the adult ceremony in 1 year. Xiangqunbi immediately said loudly. 1 year? Sudang nodded silently. Xiangqun Bishan hesitated, but Xiangqun Lianghu frowned. 1 year was too short. Xiangqun King watched this scene. 1 year later, it would be his coming of age ceremony. The so-called coming of age ceremony was to exile a group of their descendants to Kangaya Mountain to kill monsters. Kangaya Mountain was the territory of monsters and beasts. There were countless monsters of the 3 heavens, and even monsters of the heavenly way and the void god level. Every time the coming of age ceremony was held, nearly half of the family members died, but the family did not have any regrets, and continued to select strong people in this way, just to hone stronger younger generations. If you are afraid of death, then work hard to practice. 1 year is too short. Xiangqun Lianghu shook his head. Humph, he is an innate creature, born with extraordinary blood. If he can't pass the coming of age ceremony after 1 year, he is not worth cultivating. Xiangqunbi stared. You are not unaware of the defects of innate creatures. If the blood is not good, how difficult it is to break through. Do we, the Xiangqun family, have to spend a lot of resources to raise a 3 heaven? He was aggressive. I'm willing. Suddenly, a slightly immature voice sounded, and everyone's eyes were focused on the young man in the hall. All of them showed a trace of surprise. Okay, this child is still young, don't fight for now. Xiangqun Bishan waved his hand, took Sudang's hand, and ordered, drink wine first, eat meat, and discuss slowly. Yes, eat meat and drink wine. Discuss slowly. Everyone also went back to the original place. The party in the Red Flame Hall lasted until late at night. On the way back, Xiangqun Lianghu took Xiangqun King and Sudang. My child, you have already gained spiritual wisdom. That's right, it's been a year, and you should know a lot of things. In this case, you can choose a name for yourself. Xiangqun Lianghu looked at Sudang lovingly and smiled. Today in the hall, after the final discussion, Sudang still had to participate in the coming of age ceremony in a year, and use his strength to get the innate extreme spiritual fruit. The innate extreme spiritual fruit is a treasure of heaven and earth, which has a miraculous effect on his talent awakening. Sudong will naturally not miss it. Of course, he also showed some extraordinariness. Innate creatures, born and raised by nature, do not know how to fear. This is the most natural. This book has been recently updated on #@. Update. HMM. Sudong looked up at Xiangquan Liang, whose doting eyes made a thoughtful expression, and then said as he walked, "I'll be called Sudong." Since the right to name is in his hands, of course he should use his real name. Sudong? Xiangquan Liang who muttered, and Xiangquan King also muttered, and then the former nodded slightly. Okay, then call him Xiangquan Sudong. Kinga, your brother will be called Sudong in the future. Xiangquan King just glanced at Sudong with a lack of interest. He didn't think there was anything good about this name. After all, what good name can an ignorant innate creature have? The three of them return under the night. Xiangquan clan has a total of 16 heavenly Dao void level strongmen, among which there are 7 who major in the heavenly Dao immortal path. The brothers Xiangquan B and Xiangquan Bishan are both heavenly Dao immortals. Xiangquan B is a 4th level heavenly Dao immortal, mastering 2.5 powers. In terms of strength, he is inferior to Xiangquan Liang who, at this moment, in Xiangquan B's mansion. Damn it, today I was going to ask my brother for the innate extreme spiritual fruit for my Jia, but who would have thought that Liang who would appear halfway. Xiangquan B sat on the chair in the mansion angrily, and the electric snakes behind his head were dancing wildly. Next to him stood respectfully a plain-looking boy. He is the youngest son of Xiangquan B and the one with the best qualifications. His name is Xiangquan Jiu. It is said that he will not seek benefits for the younger generation, but which father has no selfishness? Coming of age ceremony. Hunting monsters is dangerous and uncontrollable. Xiangquan B has already had 4 sons die in the coming of age ceremony, and he must not let another one die. So he wanted to maximize his youngest son's strength before he attended the coming of age ceremony. The Xiantian extreme spiritual fruit was the best choice, but he never expected that Xiangquan Liang who would appear. Now, no one can hope for it. He was furious, and Xiangquan Jiu beside him had a cold light in his eyes. Chapter 287 Market. Xiangquan Jiu was also angry in his heart. It was all Xiangquan Liang whose fault for ruining his good fortune. For a child of his age, the most important thing was the coming of age ceremony in a year. Going to Kangar Mountain to fight monsters was a must for every family member. He will be of age next year. He has now reached the 2nd level of the mortal world and knows many Taoist methods, but he has not yet mastered the power. If he has the innate extreme spiritual fruit, he will probably master the power so that he will be sure of the coming of age ceremony trial. My 4 brothers all died in the coming of age ceremony, and I don't want to die like this. Xiangquan Jiu roared in his heart. On the surface, he stood respectfully beside Xiangquan B. He looked plain, but he was crazy inside. Uncle Liang who adopted a son who is a congenital creature for him. I heard that the son has not even awakened his inherited memory. It's all this son's fault. I have to teach him a lesson. A congenital creature? Humph. On the warm little bed, Sudong sat cross-legged, his whole body emitting a warm golden glow. Just a moment ago, a mobile phone had already taken shape in his Dantian. A year after reincarnation in this world, Sudong also felt the power of the Xiangquan family. It was so powerful to rule over a 90,000 li area. However, the strong are respected. It can be seen in today's gathering that resources are in the hands of the strong. Xiangquan Bishan, as the 3rd-ranked Xiandao immortal in the family, can control many things. The strong will always be strong. The stronger they are, the more resources they have in their hands, and the stronger they are. My path of cultivation requires a lot of rich spiritual energy. There is no shortage of spiritual essences in this world. What is truly valuable is the treasures of heaven and earth. Everyone wants the treasures of heaven and earth. Sudong doesn't want to care about the power struggles of the Xiangquan family. What he cares about is the treasures of heaven and earth. His will and consciousness are at the level of void god, and his body is an innate creature. Now his physical strength alone has reached the stage of martial saint, which is the level of the 2nd heaven between heaven and earth. A small coming of age ceremony is not challenging at all for Sudong. There is no need to worry about it. In the Dantian, a golden mobile phone sits in the Dantian. According to Sudong's mobile phone carrier at the moment, there is enough internal space, and there are many ideas in his mind. With the support of the mobile phone, he will rise rapidly. This is the biggest foundation for his foothold in this world. Sudong closed his eyes and began to practice. A trace of spiritual energy from heaven and earth slowly entered Sudong's body and was absorbed into the mobile phone in the Dantian. After transformation, part of it was absorbed by Sudong's data core in the mobile phone, and part of it was transformed into a special energy. These energies continue to strengthen Sudong's body. There is no practice method, no inherited memory, and it is incredible even for innate creatures to directly absorb and spit out the spiritual energy between heaven and earth to practice. Wow. These energies entered Sudong's body and moistened every cell in his body. He could clearly feel that this energy was different from the true essence in the past. It was similar to a mixture of true essence and spiritual power. His body was a congenital creature, born and raised by nature, and did not need to be awakened. Naturally, he could practice the immortal Taoism. Another half-month passed. In the early morning, the sun shone through the window and basked in Sudong's body, making him warm. Two beautiful maids came in on time to help Sudong change clothes and wash. This was the privilege of being the second son of Xiangquan Lianghu. His status was very noble. After changing clothes and washing, Sudong, wearing a white dress, came to the main hall of the mansion accompanied by two maids. Xiangquan Lianghu sat at the top of the hall, with Xiangquan King on his left, and many female relatives of Xiangquan Lianghu on the other side. In this world, there are many women of the strong, and except for his wife, the status of the other female relatives is not high. Xiangquan King lost his mother when he was young, and Xiangquan King's mother was Xiangquan Lianghu's legal wife. After the death of the wife, the position of the wife has been vacant. At this moment, Xiangquan Lianghu was scolding Xiangquan King. After dinner, go and practice your spear skills, and then practice your footwork. Your footwork is too poor, so it is easy to suffer in battle. In the afternoon, find your master Qin Wu to practice martial arts. Remember, although you are on the path of the immortal of the heavenly way, you cannot carry martial arts with you. Don't think that physical training is hard and fall behind. Once you have practiced martial arts well, you can practice Taoism with twice the result with half the effort. Xiangquan Lianghu scolded while drinking. This world advocates the dual cultivation of Taoism and martial arts. Strong in all aspects. Xiangquan King listened obediently and dared not breathe. Father. Sudong walked into the hall and saluted first. Sudong, are you up? Come and eat. Today's meat is delicious. Xiangquan Lianghu saw Sudong and immediately changed his face, with a gentle and doting smile on his face, and said. Xiangquan King couldn't help but be dissatisfied again. Sudong quickly sat down next to Xiangquan. On the table in front of him, there was a large exquisite porcelain plate with delicious meat on it. Next to it was a thick pancake with the aroma of wheat. There was also a soup that was cooked and exuded spiritual energy. Sudong started eating. The delicious meat almost made him unable to stop. He didn't know if it was because his innate body was too overbearing. After reincarnation, he was particularly good at eating. He ate almost 4 times as much as Xiangquan King in one meal. You should know that what he ate was not ordinary food, but pancakes made of wheat flour containing spiritual energy, monster meat and soup containing spiritual essence. The spiritual energy of this food alone is comparable to several spiritual essences. Of course, there is an effect. Sudong has grown so big in a year, and his physical strength has improved by leaps and bounds, all from eating. Father, I'm done. I want to go to the market outside today. After Sudong quickly swallowed all the food, he looked up at Xiangquan Lianghu for advice. This book has been updated recently on #@. Update. Okay, be careful when you go out. Xiangquan Lianghu smiled and nodded. Xiangquan King, who was eating slowly on the side, was envious again. Sudong didn't need to be urged to practice, nor was he forced by Xiangquan Lianghu to learn this or that, because Sudong was a congenital creature. As long as he awakened his inherited memory and talent, he would naturally have the most suitable Taoist practice method for himself. This world has extremely strict control over the practice methods. Even Xiangqun King went out to learn from a master. Xiangqun Liang, who was not qualified to teach his son what he had learned. Most of the skills and other resources were firmly controlled by the Nine Realms ancient country, unless some skills were found for the practice of casual practitioners in the outside world, but those skills were also very ordinary. And Xiangqun King's master Qin Wu was a martial arts master in the system of the Nine Realms ancient country, specializing in teaching martial arts. After getting Xiangqun Lianghu's promise, Su Dong stood up and strode out with a smile. The two beautiful maids behind him followed him. No matter where Su Dong went, they had to serve him personally. This was their mission. They didn't even have names, because Su Dong didn't need to call them. With a look or a command, they would always be around Su Dong. Xiangqun Lianghu was only in a corner of Xiangqun City, because Xiangqun City represented the authority and core of the Xiangqun clan. Xiangqun City was equivalent to a large capital city within a radius of 90,000 miles, so it was naturally very prosperous and lively. Sir, if you don't let the guards follow you, the master will blame you if he knows. The two maids followed Su Dong carefully. Their beautiful faces attracted the attention of many passers-by around them. Of course, when they saw the two of them surrounding the young man in a gorgeous white robe, everyone understood that he was a child of a big family. No problem. Su Dong waved his hand nonchalantly. It was not his first time out, and he walked through the streets skillfully. There were all kinds of items for sale in the market, even elixirs, secret manuals, and magic weapons. Killing was absolutely forbidden in the city, and the market was completely controlled by the Xiangqun family, maintaining absolute transaction security. This was the source of the market's prosperity. He came to a corner of the market. Come and see. Come and see the seeds of the treasures of heaven and earth, the authentic seeds obtained from the small world of Bakao. You can't buy them at a loss or be cheated. A peddler was shouting there. Su Dong walked over with a smile on his face. Chapter 288 Heaven and Earth Crystal. The stall was very simple. There was only a short man placing a piece of black animal skin on the street in front of him. On the animal skin were many seeds placed in small metal plates. There was also a formation covering the metal plate. It played a role in preserving this young man. Come and have a look. These are the best seeds of heaven and earth treasures. You plant them in your cave. After a few decades, you can eat the treasures of heaven and earth. The vendor introduced excitedly. Those who sell seeds of heaven and earth treasures are generally immortals of the heavenly way. Even if the immortals of the heavenly way are not immortals, their lifespans are very long. It is normal for them to plant some spiritual fruits and flowers. Su Dong walked to the side of the stall and pointed at the 3 seeds on the stall. Give me 10 seeds of each of the 3 kinds of seeds: blood purifying fruit, refreshing flower, and meridian training fragrant leaf. Okay. The vendor was very happy. He liked to do business with such young men the most. He bought what he liked and never said anything. But this young man could point out the names of these seeds at will. Obviously, he also understood the market. Sir, these seeds are not easy to take care of, and they will take about 60 years to mature. Do you need someone to take care of them? The vendor said as he took out a small talisman paper to hold the seeds for Su Dong. I can take care of them myself. Su Dong smiled and took the seeds. The maid behind him hurried forward to pay the bill. After getting the seeds, Su Dong walked to the end of the market again, where there was a large building. Wait outside. Su Dong ordered the 2 maids. Although the 2 maids were reluctant, they knew the temper of their master. They were innate creatures with strange tempers. On weekdays, they would not be annoyed, no matter what they did wrong. But if they stuck to him, that would be wrong. The master didn't like them to stick to him. Yes. The 2 maids waited respectfully. Su Dong walked into the building. The building was orderly, with many immortal cultivators and warriors of the second heaven walking through it. There were small windows in front of the building, and rune light and shadow fonts outside the windows. Today's special offer: 1 piece of refined gold can be exchanged for 1 piece of heaven and earth crystal. There was a striking red rune font on a window. I remember that a few days ago, 1 piece of refined gold could be exchanged for 2 pieces of heaven and earth crystal, but today it is only 1 piece. Su Dong shook his head. Refined gold is a relatively large currency in the ancient country of the 9 realms. It is circulated throughout the entire 9 realms, while the heaven and earth crystal is a kind of spiritual crystal that is only produced in the great world. It is called a spiritual crystal, but it is a higher level than a spiritual crystal. One heaven and earth crystal can replace more than 10,000 spiritual crystals. The heaven and earth crystal is the cornerstone of the heaven and earth, and the energy in it is far beyond the comparison of spiritual crystals. The heaven and earth crystal is also the hard currency of all the great worlds. Many powerful people need to use heaven and earth crystals for cultivation. Change me 36 pieces of heaven and earth crystal. Sudan walked to the window, wiped his sleeves, and took out a cloth bag. In the cloth bag were pieces of gold nuggets the size of cakes. These golden nuggets still emit golden light on the surface, which is the expensive refined gold. Young Master Shyanquan, are you here to buy heaven and earth crystals again? A graceful woman smiled in the window. The entire Shyanquan city belonged to the Shyanquan clan. She was just a servant of the Shyanquan clan, but the young master in front of her was different and had a very high status. Of course, she was smiling and did not dare to neglect him. She quickly took out 36 thumb-sized crystals with mysterious patterns on the surface, put them in a storage bag in front of Sudong, and handed them to Sudong through the window. Sudong just nodded, picked up the storage bag and left. I only know that he is a young master, but I don't know which void god's young master he is. It would be great if he could look at me more. The woman looked at Sudong's back, and her heart was still wavering. The Shyanquan clan was the overlord here. She could climb up the high branch of a young master and become a young master's wife. That would really be like flying up the tree and becoming a phoenix. If she could become the main wife, she would not even dare to dream of it. But she was also curious. If you can't become a void god, what do you need so many heaven and earth crystals for? Heaven and earth crystals are crystal stones that construct the heaven and earth. The energy in them is vast, and if you can't become a void god, you can't absorb it at all. This is not what she could have thought of. The two maids who had been waiting outside the building for a long time saw Sudong coming out, and their beautiful faces showed sweet smiles at the same time. Young master, let's go back. Young master, don't you want to go shopping anymore? The two maids looked at Sudong. They stayed in the mansion for a long time and yearned for the scenery outside. But Sudong shook his head directly. The pocket money that Shyanquan Liang gave him was all used up. What's the point of going shopping? Go back. Sudong didn't even turn his head. The two maids quietly stuck out their tongues. Although their young master is only 1 year old, perhaps because of the extraordinary innate creatures, they can't figure out his style of doing things. They left. There were several figures hiding in a street corner far behind them. You saw it. It's the boy. Don't touch the boy. Beat up the two maids next to the boy. Break one leg for each of them. Beat them in front of the boy. A middle-aged man in a gorgeous robe at the corner of the street warned. It's a small matter. Leave it to us brothers. Just break their legs. A total of 3 dark-skinned men jumped out from the corner of the street. After they jumped out, a young man slowly walked out from behind the corner. He was not good looking, but his eyes were always looking down at his feet. Only when he raised his head could you see the sinisterness in his eyes. It was Shyanquan Jiu, the youngest son of Shyanquan B. Humph, innate creature, I will beat up your servants in front of you and see what you can do. Shyanquan Jiu's face was cold. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Internal fighting is strictly prohibited within the clan. Although the Shyanquan clan seems to be huge, it is also full of dangers. If there is no unity within, it would have been destroyed long ago. Internal unity is the most important thing, so even if there is hatred, they will suppress the other party and make the other party lose face. As the saying goes, when gods fight, mortals suffer. The servants are the ones who suffer. Even if Shyanquan Jiu had 100 guts, he would not dare to attack Sudong, but he dared to attack the servants. This is venting. The elders would not say anything if they knew. In their eyes, the death of a slave maid is just a literary fight, a fight between children. Sudong walked in front. The two maids next to him carefully shielded him from the scorching sun. Sudong's brows suddenly frowned. These 3 people breathe so heavily. They are all martial artists, and they are also at the level of martial saints. They are also at the top of the 2nd level of the mortal world in this world. Sudong's will consciousness was released. It easily covered the 3 people who rushed over in small steps in the crowd behind him. The data core easily analyzed a lot of information about the 3 people. In an instant, Sudong understood the identities of the 3 people. 3 thugs? Are they coming for my maids and want to hit my face? Sudong shook his head. This kind of conflict is too common among the disciples of the clan. A bunch of kids playing house, but since you came here, you deserve it. Sudong had a sneer on his face. Just in front. These 2 women are really beautiful, it's worth marrying them as wives. Do you want a disabled one? The 3 people who came over from behind were still talking to each other in a low voice. No, it's hard to give birth if you are disabled. The 3 people came over, all with fierce eyes. They did this for the children of the big family more than once or twice. They would leave after beating and get the reward. They were just thugs, and the real fighters were the ones above. The young man in front of him didn't have much momentum, and he definitely didn't have much strength. He didn't have any guards, so he could only watch them fight. Go ahead. The 3 people approached Sudong and the other 2, and suddenly accelerated. The second level heaven fluctuations spread from their bodies, that is, the holy domain fluctuations, but the holy domain fluctuations were too weak, and could only spread less than 10 feet. At the corner of the street, Xiangquan Jiu sneered and looked here. He couldn't wait to see how Sudong looked when he saw his mate being beaten to a pulp. Bang, bang, bang. 3 muffled sounds were heard. The 2 beautiful maids beside Sudong felt as if 3 bluestones flashed in front of them. Then they heard 3 screams behind them. They turned around and saw 2 dark-skinned men lying on the ground, holding their heads, with blood gushing out of their heads. Another man fell to the side, his head covered with blood, foaming at the mouth, and twitching all over. They didn't know if he could survive. Chapter 289, 1 acre of land. Young master, young master. Both maids couldn't help but speak, their faces full of surprise. Don't worry about it. Sudong smiled. It was a piece of cake for him to deal with these 3 thugs from the second heaven. Now his data core has been upgraded to the level close to the second heaven void god. His spiritual will can affect the rules of heaven. Although the rules of heaven and earth are perfect and powerful, the gap is so big. Sudong can still control some dead things with his strong will. Since I came to this world and have an innate body of a living being, my core data has been absorbing spiritual energy to enhance. This kind of unfettered enhancement feels really wonderful. Sudong sighed in his heart. For other life cultivation, whether it is the Heavenly Deo Immortal School or the Void God School, it is extremely difficult to break through a small level, but his data core is enhanced, and his will consciousness is enhanced, which leads to an essential enhancement. Will consciousness is the foundation. So no matter whether Sudong cultivates the Void God route or the Heavenly Deo Immortal route, as long as he does not reach the limit of will consciousness, he can naturally improve easily. Like the Void God route, Sudong's innate body is now at the level of the 3rd level of the mortal world. If he goes one step further, he will become a Void God and master the power of the Void God. Similarly, Sudong can immediately reach the power level by performing sword skills and the mystery of wind. It can be said that in 1 year, Sudong's strength has only become stronger than before. The most important thing now is to awaken my innate memory of the inherited life. Sudong thought. What he wanted most now was to awaken the inherited memory. Only with the inherited memory can he be considered a complete innate life. 3 people fell to the ground with blood on their heads in the market, causing a commotion, but people only saw 3 bluestones flying by, and the 3 fierce men of the 2nd level of body refining fell to the ground one by one, and no one knew what happened. After a while, someone reported to the city guards, and a large group of soldiers in black armor came. The armor on these black, armored soldiers was very thick, and there were barbs on the elbows. Some of them were followed by monsters and birds of prey, exuding a cold aura. When they came, the market was very quiet. The city guards manage the order of the entire Xiangquan city, and the leaders are all void gods or heavenly immortals. Mr. 9. Some of the black armored soldiers saw a young man in a gorgeous robe walking out of a street corner in the distance. The young man was not good looking, but his eyes were a little sinister. Xiangquan Jiu was followed by a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man had a strong aura dormant in his body, but he followed respectfully. "Hello, Mr. 9. All the black armored soldiers saluted. Xiangquan Jiu waved his hand and said, "These 3 people just tried to rob a maid of a young master of my Xiangquan family. They deserve it. They should be dragged out of the city and beaten to death." The 2 sober men among the 3 men widened their eyes. The middle-aged man next to Xiangquan Jiu had a faint glow in his eyes, and the 2 men opened their mouths in fear, but couldn't say a word. Yes. The many black armored soldiers took the order. They dragged the 3 away. This kind of thugs are doing things that violate the order of Xiangquan City. Since Xiangquan Jiu has spoken, they are too lazy to investigate. After the black armored knight left, Xiangquan Jiu and the middle-aged man beside him walked into a pavilion of a restaurant in the market. As soon as they entered the pavilion, Xiangquan Jiu's face changed, and a look of surprise appeared on his plain face. "Kibo, you really didn't see it wrong. Xiangquan Sudong really awakened his talent?" Xiangquan Jiu frowned. Now the Xiangquan clan all know that Xiangquan Liang, whose innate creature adopted son, is named Sudong. Several feet away, he manipulated the blue stone on the ground without any trace to injure 3 ordinary people of the 2nd level of body refining. It must be the awakening of talent. Kiwuai, who is the 2nd level of the void god under Xiangquan B. He has fought with Xiangquan B for many years, and now follows Xiangquan Jiu. After awakening, the talent can control objects and easily injure the 2nd level of body refining, which is stronger than ordinary immortals' Taoism. Xiangquan Jiu was jealous, and gnashed his teeth. Innate creatures are naturally stronger than them. It's okay if they don't awaken their talents. Once awakened, everyone becomes abnormal, even in the void. In addition to innate creatures, there are also beings with the blood of innate creatures. As long as they are gifted, they are extraordinary. In a year, it will be the coming of age ceremony. The coming of age ceremony is to enter Kangaya Mountain to kill monsters. At that time, you can't rely on anyone, but you can rely on Xiangquan Sudong. Although Xiangquan Jiu was jealous, he was very wise. He was just angry with Sudong, not his enemy. If he could help him, then he would be his friend. "Uncle Ki, help me choose some good gifts in private for Sudong. More friends mean more paths. It's not a bad thing to make friends with him." "Yes." Kiwuai nodded respectfully. He, the void god, admired Xiangquan Jiu, not because of Xiangquan Jiu's background and qualifications, but because of Xiangquan Jiu's own political wisdom, which was far superior to his many brothers. In the Xiangquan clan, if you follow the right master, the higher the status and power of the master in the future, the more prosperous your family will be. In this vast land, a family must rely on a strong clan to survive. The Xiangquan clan is the overlord of Jiuanli. They are all retainers of the Xiangquan clan. At night, the light orange crystal emitting bright light illuminated the room. Sudong was sitting on the bed, and Sudong was surrounded by a faint aura. In his internal Dantian, the golden mobile phone emitted light, and Sudong's data core was running rapidly. An application was opened on the mobile phone interface, Xiandi Yimushan. As a 7-star application in the App Store, Xiandi Yimushan takes up a lot of space. When Xiandi Yimushan opens, there are 3 ordinary khaki land grids on the mobile phone interface. The land grids are arranged in a square shape, and Sudong's data consciousness controls the 3 types of seeds: blood purifying fruit, refreshing flower, and pulse refining fragrant leaf, to sow 10 seeds each in the 3 khaki grids. Suddenly, a faint spiritual light lingers on the khaki grid. These 3 heavenly treasures are all helpful for the recovery of my innate bloodline. If you want to buy these 3 heavenly treasures, a blood purifying fruit costs 600 pieces of refined gold, and the other 2 are not much different. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Fortunately, seeds are relatively much cheaper. The 9 Realms ancient country has a small world dedicated to growing heavenly treasures. The entire small world is used to grow heavenly treasures. TSK. Sudong sighed. He didn't have such a big hand, but he also had an acre of small fields. 1 acre of heaven and earth provides 3 fields in the initial stage. 1 field can plant 10 units of 1 type of heaven and earth treasure. No matter what kind of heaven and earth treasure it is, the maturity period can be shortened by half. These 3 types of heaven and earth treasures take about 60 years to mature, and the field itself is shortened by 30 years. Sudong took out many blue heaven and earth crystals. 1 heaven and earth crystal can increase the fertility of a field, 1 shortens 3 years, and 10 is 30 years. 3 types of heaven and earth treasures consume a total of 30 heaven and earth crystals. Because he is the data core, he naturally understands everything. Paying heaven and earth crystals shortens the time to a moment. Sudong's data core pays attention to the scene in the 1 acre of heaven and earth field. 3 pieces of earthy yellow land take root and sprout, quickly bloom and bear fruit, and then produce 10 blood purifying fruits, 10 vein refining fragrant leaves and 10 spirit refreshing flowers. Then, Sudong's consciousness moved, and these harvests fell into his core data space. It's done. The heaven and earth treasures that originally took a long time to cultivate in the blink of an eye. It's convenient to have your own land. Although the investment is larger, the return is also greater. In the room, Sudong's face showed an excited smile. Danki wishes everyone a happy Mid-Autumn festival and a happy family reunion. Chapter 290 Inherited Memory. With just the heaven and earth crystals, he could make back his investment by selling a mature blood purification fruit and even earn dozens of times more. It can be said that it was not difficult for Sudong to get the heaven and earth crystals. In the brightly lit room, Sudong sat cross-legged, the smile on his face gradually faded, and his consciousness was immersed in the body of the innate creature. The surrounding heaven and earth spiritual ki lingered around the body of the innate creature like an obedient elf. Sudong closed his eyes, as if he was asleep. But under the pressure of the invisible breath, the whole room was extremely heavy. Close your eyes. Sudong's data core began to decompose a blood purification fruit with a refreshing flower and a pulse refining fragrance leaf into the body of the innate creature. As Xiangquan B said, cultivating an innate creature is extremely resource consuming. To put it bluntly, it requires money. The resources required are something that even Xiangquan Liang who can't afford. The combination of the 3 heaven and earth treasures is a method that Sudong has deliberately learned during this period of time. It has a miraculous effect on the recovery of the blood of innate creatures. As the 3 heaven and earth treasures decomposed, boom. 3 different life energies, under the monitoring of Sudong's core data consciousness, suddenly turned into 3 streams of colorful torrents, and the first to bear the brunt was the 5-colored heart in the chest of Sudong's innate creature. The 5-colored heart is the real core and source of power of this innate creature. At this moment, Sudong could feel as if there was an endless energy, which contained vigorous vitality, spiritual power, true essence, and even many energy substances that Sudong's data core could not recognize, hitting the core of his heart. His 5-colored heart seemed to expand several times in an instant. That feeling was like a calm stream of water that gushed out fiercely and violently, after passing through the high pressure of a high pressure water pump, gathering in the heart, and then bursting out extremely violently, rushing into several arteries with the heart as the core, and then the boiling energy turned the body upside down. The purity and condensation of these energies far exceeded Sudong's imagination. The mighty energy directly gushed out from his heart, from the inside out, and then quickly contracted, rushing back frantically. Wherever it passed, it immediately brought pain like being cut by 1,000 knives. However, Sudong's consciousness had long entered the data core, so he naturally could not feel the perception of the body of the innate creature. However, under the strong power of the medicine, Sudong's data core was able to perceive that there were 5-colored crystal energy threads in the meridians and flesh. These 5-colored threads penetrated the meridians, flesh and even bones. They seemed insignificant, but Sudong's data core was able to feel how much vast and turbulent power and mystery these crystal 5-colored threads contained. As a result, the flesh, meridians, and bones of the innate creature's body became more resilient and powerful in an instant. At the same time, whether it was the surface of Sudong's body or the inside of his body, pieces of 5-colored crystal shell-like substances emerged faintly under the scouring of this turbulent medicine. This is the innate substance of the 5-colored stone. These substances have the most original innate energy. These energies were once lost due to damage, but now they are being re-stimulated and re-emerging. Feeling the changes in the body of the innate creature, even Sudong's data core mentality still surged with joy. Obviously, the combination of these 3 treasures of heaven and earth is indeed effective in restoring and improving his innate bloodline. Of course, if you want to improve and become stronger with the current innate body of the creature, you must use more powerful and rare treasures of heaven and earth. However, even the big forces in the void will be tempted to covet such treasures of heaven and earth. Even if it is just a seed, it is extremely expensive. Its value is self-evident. Even the ancient country of the 9 realms, which has the small world to plant treasures of heaven and earth, will go crazy for it. Sudong naturally didn't dare to imagine it for the time being. When Sudong's data core saw that the power of the medicine in this body was weakening, he did not hesitate to decompose the 3 kinds of heaven and earth treasures in the data core again. Suddenly, there was a dazzling 5-color light bursting out on the 5-color heart of his innate creature's body. The rich and dazzling 5-color light condensed from the inside to the outside into layers of 5-color shell crystals. The originally dim 5-color crystals were also like being injected with a squeeze of cardiac stimulants at this time. They directly broke away from Sudong's body, extended out layer by layer, and entrenched around him, and then gathered a series of 5-color energy, as if condensed into a 5-color boulder, nourishing Sudong's body again. Surrounded by this 5-color crystal, the innate creature sitting cross-legged seemed to become illusory at this time, and there were also faint pieces of strange origin runes on the surface of its body, flowing and crystal clear. The origin rune appeared, and under the influence of the medicinal power of the 3 treasures of heaven and earth, Sudong then could feel the fluctuations emanating from the body of the innate creature, which began to grow rapidly stronger. On that dazzling 5-colored body, the brilliant light continued to surge, erupting and rippling, illuminating the entire room. The 2 maids outside the room could clearly feel the terrible energy leaking out from the gaps in the doors and windows of the room. That energy seemed to carry a trace of innate power, which made them tremble in their hearts. It was the fear from their blood. Young master, are you practicing? So scary. Young master is an innate creature, innately extraordinary. The 2 maids knelt respectfully. After investing 8 of the 3 treasures of heaven and earth, finally, this kind of medicinal power finally completed the incompleteness of the body of the innate creature. The most original energy was infused into it. At the moment, when the innate source energy was booming, suddenly, an extremely huge memory poured into Sudong's data core. It was extremely ancient and vast. It was unknown which generation of the innate life of the 5-colored stone. These precious inherited memories were completely displayed in front of Sudong's core data, which shocked Sudong's core data and stopped working. It was too huge. He felt that he was completely overwhelmed by this memory. The mysterious and special Taoism. The Taoism was completely suitable for the cultivation of the innate creatures of the 5-colored stone, the profound body refining method, the understanding of the mysteries of heaven and earth, and the vast and incomparable killing moves. These memories kept flashing and pouring in like slides. A large amount of memories poured into Sudong's core data. Keep pouring in. Sudong felt suffocated. These memories almost reached the limit of his data core's carrying capacity. Damn, don't tell me that innate creatures can bear such inherited memories. Sudong couldn't believe it. This book was recently updated in #at. Update. It's impossible. Indeed, innate creatures are very stupid when they are young. They can only rely on themselves to discover, comprehend, and learn their inherited memories bit by bit. Unlike this, they are directly instilled into the brain. It seems endless. Continuous. Various memories flashed by and were completely integrated into Sudong's core data. Sudong even saw an innate creature in the shape of a monkey made of 5-colored stone, swallowing and spitting out the essence of the sun and the moon in the vast ocean. Half an hour. It lasted for half an hour. The 5-colored light crystals in the room turned into streams and poured into the body of the innate creature. The body of the innate creature sat there, motionless, and the body returned to normal, as if it was asleep. Suddenly, the eyes of the innate creature suddenly opened, and Sudong's eyes opened, with dazzling and hazy 5-colored light in his eyes. There was also a deepness that seemed to come from the bones. Oh my god. Sudong felt relieved at this time. Finally, he absorbed the vast inherited memory. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 Yin Yang 5 Colors of Light. The inherited memories of the 5-colored stone innate creatures were violently infused into Sudong's data core, completely reaching the carrying limit of Sudong's data core. That was the data strength of the Void God level, and Sudong even felt tired. Too many memories. One Taoist method is too vast. The body refining method is also vast, not to mention the many memory fragments, and the bloodline improvement method. Sudong was shocked. It was just an innate creature. Whether it could absorb all its inherited memories from birth to death was another matter. But he absorbed the inherited memories of countless generations of 5-colored stone innate creatures in one go. Too shocking. The bloodline of innate creatures, from noble to ordinary. It is actually divided into 12 levels. My 5-colored stone innate creature body can only be considered average, with inherited memories, and can awaken talents. Many innate creatures have no inherited memories, and some have no talents. Xiangqun B also said that it is extremely difficult to improve the bloodline level of innate creatures. How difficult is it? Even if all the financial resources of the entire Xiangqun family are used up, it is still another matter whether it can improve the bloodline level of an innate creature. Because there are too many heavenly treasures to match. Many of them are even close to legends. It can be said that the level of a congenital creature's bloodline, when it is born, is the level of its life. If you want to improve the level, it is against the will of heaven to change your fate. Too difficult. Too difficult. But even so, congenital creatures are still very powerful. His 5-colored stone congenital creature bloodline can grow all the way to the level of a world god. In the inherited memory that Sudong received, there is only one kind of Taoist practice, Yin Yang 5-color light. There is also one method of body refining. Although there are only 2 kinds of heaven repairing secret, Sudong was shocked directly. The immortal Taoist method Yin Yang 5-color light is divided into 5 levels, namely the 5-color wheel, Yin Yang division, void escape, world god light, and destruction of the lotus. Sudong only had a preliminary understanding, but he couldn't help being shocked and shocked. The innate life of the 5-colored stone. Once you successfully cultivate the first level, you can have a portion of the power of the heavenly way. If you cultivate the second level, you will have 2 portions of power, and so on. The most terrifying is the 5th level of the destruction divine lotus, which directly controls 3 more powers. Sudong was speechless. He was so blessed. It can be said that, as long as you continue to practice, you can directly control 7 portions of power. The body refining method Bushianju is divided into only 3 levels, law of heaven and earth, void body protection, and endless divine power. Bushianju needs to be practiced. Although it is a method of body refining of the void god, there is no key point. There is no need to practice the mysteries of heaven and earth. Just one word, smash. Take the many strange gems between heaven and earth, and smash them together. Improve it abruptly. If you successfully cultivate law of heaven and earth, you will master 1 portion of power. If you successfully cultivate void body protection, you will master 3 portions of power. If you cultivate endless divine power, you will also directly master 7 portions of power. If a 5-colored stone innate creature practices Taoism and refines the body at the same time, it can eventually master 14 powers. 14 powers, plus the realm power, plus the mark power. It can be said that a truly grown innate creature is feared by any life in the void. The real darling of the void. A well-deserved true overlord level life. However, there is a cultivation path. The difficulty is equally terrible. Because innate creatures are born with low comprehension, Taoism cultivation will be very slow. If there are no resources, it will also be difficult to refine the body. The way of heaven gave birth to such terrible creatures, and also checked their growth. Moreover, for example, when a 5-colored stone innate creature grows to a realm god, it is the top. No matter how much it practices, it is still a realm god. If you want to break through, you can only improve the blood level against the sky, which is even more difficult. Not only do you need many treasures and opportunities, when you really improve your blood, you will also have to suffer the test of the void catastrophe, that is, the heavenly tribulation. From ancient times to the present, I don't know how many innate creatures have died under the heavenly tribulation. Difficult, too difficult. Sudong sighed as he read the inherited memory. It was late at night. In Sudong's room, the door was closed. The pale yellow crystals on the four walls emitted a warm glow. Outside the window was a snow-white full moon. It was exactly the 15th day of the lunar month. The moon was round and bright. Sudong was sitting in the room. A faint 5-color divine light lingered on his body, one hand in front, and one hand behind. It's so easy. Ordinary innate creatures are born with stupid intelligence and low comprehension, so it's not easy to practice Taoism, but I'm different. Sudong's core data was browsing a classic. It was the yin-yang 5-color light in the inherited memory, with his will consciousness at the level of the void god. Don't practice too easily. His will at the level of the void god corresponds to the will of the heavenly Dao immortal. With the will of the heavenly Dao immortal, watching this introduction to Taoism is naturally high level and much simpler. As the saying goes, everything is difficult at the beginning. The most difficult thing about yin-yang 5-color light is getting started. To get started, you must feel the 5-color light. The 5-color light contains 5 different energy sources. The 5-color stone creatures are born to condense the 5-color light. It is one thing to condense it, and it is another to understand and use it. Condensing the 5-color wheel in the Dantian purple mansion in the body is the first test. Sudong had never practiced the immortal Taoism before, but now that he has practiced, he is also very good at it. He easily grasped the essentials. His 2 palms slowly gathered in front of him, driving the 5-color light, as if a strange sacrifice was being performed. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Sudong's 2 palms came together. Suddenly, in front of him, an illusory 5-color light wheel like a flower was condensed. The light wheel was covered with many strange marks and runes, emitting waves of power. There was silence. Sudong only felt that the many spiritual powers in his body were madly pumped out by the 5-color light wheel in his palm. The light wheel kept spinning, rippling with 5-colored divine light. The divine light was vast, illuminating the entire room. It's done. Haha, I'm also a heavenly Dao immortal, and I can use the immortal Taoism. Sudong smiled, and he was also shocked to see the 5-colored light wheel in front of him. This light wheel contained 5 completely different spiritual energy, some of which were hot and explosive, and some were warm and peaceful. They condensed together and rotated, generating terrible centrifugal force and power. If other innate creatures saw this scene, they would probably be jealous to death. It was difficult for them to practice Taoism, and getting started was the most difficult. However, Sudong only took a moment to practice it. After successfully condensing the 5-colored wheel, Sudong truly mastered a portion of power. In addition, his innate body was comparable to that of an ordinary body that was a little short of breaking through to the heavenly Dao immortal level, and he could withstand the backlash. Absorbing the treasures of heaven and earth can speed up my growth. Eat some more treasures of heaven and earth. Sudong ate another blood purifying fruit, a refreshing flower, and a meridian training divine leaf. The strong medicinal power spread out, and Sudong's body was slowly improving. After all, he was born only a year ago. If he wanted to grow and break through to the immortal level, the void god and the heavenly Dao immortal are collectively referred to, it would normally take 3 years. But eating the treasures of heaven and earth at this moment can probably shorten it by 1 year. Sudong was not in a hurry. The practice of the heaven repairing technique required too many gemstones and treasures, so he would not consider it for the time being. Sudong began to practice the second level of yin-yang 5-colored light. Well, this second level of yin-yang is still a little difficult. Sudong was comprehending while absorbing the medicinal power of the treasures of heaven and earth. This second level of yin-yang involves yin-yang, and the 5-colored stone is involved, but it is not as sensitive as the 5-colored light. The next day, Sudong and Shinpuan King had breakfast. Shinpuan Lianghu, who was at the head, looked at the two of them. Kinga, take your magic weapon. Today is the day for your father to study your Taoism. This sentence made Shinpuan King look unhappy. Sudong, come and see. Shinpuan Lianghu also called Sudong. Shinpuan King gritted his teeth. Yes. Sudong nodded. But I was thinking, looking at Shinpuan King's behavior, this doesn't seem to be a good thing. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival everyone. I wanted to update at 3 o'clock, but then I thought, spend more time with your family, and spend the Mid-Autumn Festival happily with your family. I wish you all a happy reunion and happiness. Chapter 292 Killing. A moment later, Xiangqun Lianghu brought Xiangqun King and Sudong to an underground palace in the mansion. The underground palace was in Xiangqun Lianghu's mansion. It was 100 feet long and wide, with a huge open space in the middle, but around it were suspended cages made of black cold metal. In the cages, there were monsters imprisoned one after another, and each monster exuded a terrible aura. In the underground palace, there was a passage in front of the huge open space. After Sudong walked out of the passage and looked around, this was an open space as big as a basketball court. The walls around the open space were all made of black metal. There were many strange formation runes carved on the top and the ground, and the runes exuded a cold glow. Obviously, once these formations were activated, this open space would become an absolutely enclosed space. Kinga, go ahead, use your strongest skills. Let me see your recent progress in Taoism. Xiangqun Lianghu pointed to the front, and Xiangqun King next to him took a deep breath and walked forward. Xiangqun Lianghu took Sudong to the towering stands beside the open space. Sudong, look at the formations on the wall and the ground. Even if a 5th level void god is trapped in this formation, there is no way to break out, unless it is opened from the outside. There is no way to escape. Xiangqun Lianghu pointed at the traces of the formation. This is a cage. People outside watched Xiangqun King fighting with the monster in the cage. This is how Xiangqun Lianghu studied his son's Taoism. When Sudong learned that the method of studying Taoism was like this, he was also shocked. The monster that was imprisoned lost its freedom and even could not get food and water. The heavy hostility on its body can be imagined. Xiangqun Lianghu actually let his son fight with the monster in life and death. General competitions are just tests of the way and practice. Only real fighting can inspire the greatest strength and potential. Xiangqun Lianghu was very cold. Sudong could feel the warmth from this powerful void god, and could also feel his unique domineering. To be able to become such a strong man, his character must be extraordinary. Sudong nodded slightly. Fighting for life and death. The monsters will not show mercy. This is Xiangqun Lianghu training Xiangqun King's courage, so that he will not have no killing experience when participating in the trial of the coming of age ceremony. Xiangqun Lianghu also looked at Sudong. Sudong, you have to watch carefully too. It will be good for you to watch the killing. Only after the baptism of killing can you become a strong man. Yes. Sudong nodded. Fighting is cruel, but it is undeniable that the gains brought by killing are also huge. In this world, the tribe is prosperous, and the tribe has countless women and slaves to give birth to their descendants. However, for so many years, each generation of the Xiangqun family has not had too many children. Why? Because the training is extremely cruel and strict. Just one coming of age ceremony every year will kill more than half of the family's children. Although it is cruel, Sudong also understands in his heart that in this world of the 9 realms, the living environment is actually extremely bad for the weak, because under the tacit approval and encouragement of the 9 realms ancient country, fighting between large tribes is common, and there are monsters everywhere in the world. People have to fight with monsters, and there will be bloodshed and death when there is fighting. A large number of strong people die in the Xiangqun family every year. If you don't want to be killed, you have to go through the most cruel training and test to hone the real strong. Internal fighting is not allowed in the family, but cruel training will kill more people. Sudong exhaled lightly and looked at a huge monster that had been released by the sergeant in the field below. The monster had black fur that was as shiny as silk. Raw. A series of low and suppressed roars came from the throat of the monster. Sudong's eyes flashed with 5-colored light. The monster covered with black fur was much taller and more ferocious than Xiangqun King, and there was a terrifying breath lurking in its body that made people tremble. Xiangqun King's face was cold. He glanced at Sudong and his father in the stands, gritted his teeth, and then a light flashed in his hand, and a dagger like a wolf's tooth appeared in his hand. Dagger? Sudong knew that Xiangqun King's favorite weapon was actually a dagger. Daggers are suitable for sneak attacks and assassinations. It is very disadvantageous to fight head-on. As soon as this thought came to mind, a black light had burst out from Shinquan King below, and the black light instantly covered 3 feet around his body, which contained a sharp cold air. Practicing the realm of the mysteries of heaven and earth, judging from the momentum, it should be the realm of ice. Sudong was slightly surprised. Shinquan King was a Taoist practitioner, but he didn't expect that he could practice the mysteries of heaven and earth with a dagger. It seems that the mysteries of heaven and earth have the 6th level. As expected of the air that Xiangquan Lianghu values, Xiangquan King's comprehension is amazing. Sudong still admired Xiangquan King in his heart, but he saw Xiangquan Lianghu looking down with a cold face, and it seemed that the latter was not very satisfied. Swish! Xiangquan King immediately drove the black light to bypass from the side. The speed was so fast that it seemed to turn into a black stream of light. It was like a cunning assassin attacking the monster from behind. The monster's eyes were dark green, and the dark green eyes contained a cold light of intelligence. Because of the restrictions of Taoism, it is difficult for monsters in this world to come into contact with the cultivation method. Without the method, it is difficult for them to transform, so they all remain in the form of wild beasts, but this does not mean that they are stupid. On the contrary, most monsters are as intelligent as humans. Its cold eyes overlooked the boy rushing in front of it, and its eyes were suppressed to the extreme cold murderous intent. It understood that from the moment it came to this prison, it was destined to have only one ending: death. The human masters here will never let it out alive. The only thing it can do is to kill more humans, to bury it before it dies. The young man in front of it is obviously a good choice. He has not reached the immortal level, but he is at the top of the 3 mortal worlds. It has a chance to kill him. The huge body of the pitch black monster, like a black panther, weighs 10,000 pounds, but its 4 hooves are extremely light when stepping on the ground. When its cold eyes examined Shinquan King, its body moved in an instant. Its hair exploded completely, and when Shinquan King approached from one side, the distance between the 2 quickly closed. Bang! The front paws of the pitch black monster stretched out suddenly, turning directly into a residual image, and rushed straight to Shinquan King. Its front paws were wrapped in surging demonic power, cutting out like a long sword out of its sheath. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Whoosh. At this moment, Shinquan King thrust out the dagger in his hand, and at the same time, he pinched the magic formula with one hand, and flames suddenly appeared in his hand. The palm containing the flames decisively slapped directly towards the lower abdomen of the monster. Puff. The dagger in one hand directly pierced into the body of the latter when he ducked to avoid the claws of the monster. With the help of spiritual power and true essence, he fiercely cut the skin of the monster. It can be seen that this is not the first time that Shinquan King has fought a life and death battle with a monster. He is very experienced and fights for life and death every time. After less than a quarter of an hour, Shinquan King stood there in a mess, and in front of him, the huge monster fell to the ground with a hideous wound on its neck, and black blood was flowing out. Monster, die. How do you feel? Shinquan Lianghu asked Sudong. Very powerful. Sudong looked at Shinquan King. There was admiration in his eyes. Among the children of Shinquan King's generation, Shinquan King is probably ranked in the top 3. It's just average. He didn't even master the power. If he had mastered the power, the monster would have died long ago. Xiangquan Lianghu shook his head and looked at Xiangquan King, who was walking over. There was a bloody hole on the latter's shoulder. If it was a little more off, the heart would have been pulled out. In the end, you were not calm enough. If you were calmer, you wouldn't have been hurt. Xiangquan King gritted his teeth. Father, I'm done with my research. Now it's Sudong's turn. He stared at Sudong and said, it was too unfair for him to fight his life and death for Sudong to see. Sudong didn't comment. Xiangquan Lianghu waved his hand. Let's go back. Xiangquan King immediately widened his eyes in dissatisfaction. Chapter 293 Gemstone Matching. It's not fair. It's too unfair. Father, you are too unfair. Why do I need to fight to the death? But he doesn't. Shinquan King roared. Shinquan Lianghu's eyes twitched, and he said in a low voice, Sudong is different from you. He is a congenital creature. As long as he awakens the inherited memory, he can naturally master extremely strong power. He doesn't need to train at all. From your performance today, your state of mind is still not enough. You need experience. From today on, follow your Uncle Achiro to kill monsters, and kill enough 100 monsters. Shinpan King stared. His father was too partial. I don't accept it. I don't accept it. Shinpan King gritted his teeth and stared at Sudang. If you don't accept it, practice well and become a heavenly immortal. Shinpan King choked. In front of his father, strength is the most important. He has strength, and his father can even listen to him. As for Sudang, Shinpan King understood that his father was thinking of his grandfather Shinpan Boyang, so he naturally took special care of Sudang. And then there was the congenital blood of the creature. As long as the innate creatures awaken their talents, they are almost destined to become the strong in this world. The strongest of their Xiangquan clan is only a god. But Sudang was born from the 5-colored stone. It is normal for innate creatures to grow into a world god. This is why Xiangquan Boyang tried his best to bring Sudang back. Just because he is an innate creature? Xiangquan King gritted his teeth. He suppressed his endless anger in his heart and vowed to trample Sudang under his feet one day. Sudang didn't care at all. Watching a killing only made Sudang more convinced. What I have to do is to improve my strength as soon as possible. The 9 realms are just a microcosm of the vast void. If you want to gain a foothold in the void, if you want to revive Meng Si Niang, if you want to reach the height of the real top power in the void, you can't slack off. Perhaps for Xiangquan Lianghu, the blood of innate creatures is destined to be strong enough if they grow freely, but for Sudang, this is just a starting point. To improve strength, one is to shorten the growth time of the body of the innate creature and strive to reach the immortal level within 1 year. The second is to absorb huge spiritual energy to strengthen one's own data. The third is to practice many killer moves. There are many killer moves in the inherited memory, but the killer moves need to be understood. The powerful killer moves can even allow the 5-colored stone body to have the strength to kill the enemy across levels. Among these 3 points, the second one is the most stable and the one that Sudang does not need to worry about, but it is also the most helpless. Because Sudang found that the efficiency of the data core absorbing spiritual energy is fixed. No matter how rich the spiritual energy is, the amount that can be absorbed in a day remains constant. Then in a short time, Sudang's main improvement can only rely on the first and third methods. In the afternoon, Sudang brought his 2 maids to the market again. It is the key for the body of the innate creature to reach the immortal level, and shortening the growth time requires the gems of heaven and earth. There are several gem combinations that shorten the growth of the 5-colored stone life, and different gem combinations will even affect the characteristics of the 5-colored stone life. Sudang checked the inherited memory. The colorful stone life can devour various heaven and earth gems to shorten its growth time. Not only can it grow up quickly and reach adulthood, but it can also devour the strange attribute energy and the heaven and earth gems for its own use. For example, if more diamonds are devoured, Sudang's body can be made extremely hard, comparable to magic weapons. If more marbles are devoured, the body will become extremely resilient, and even the way of practicing transformation will be extremely easy. And the heaven and earth gems need to be bought with money, relying on Xiangquan Lianghu. Xiangquan Lianghu has privately found a lot of heaven and earth gems for Sudang, but the energy of those gems is not pure enough, and the number is too small. According to Sudang's calculation, if he wants to break through the immortal level within a year, the heaven and earth gems he needs are huge. Therefore, Sudang set a plan for himself to be self-sufficient, and never thought of relying on Xiangquan. There is a spiritual object shop in the market. Sudang and his maid walked into the spiritual object shop together. This spiritual object shop is quite exquisite, and it does not receive many guests. The shop sells and purchases various strange treasures, heaven and earth spiritual objects, magic weapons and even secrets and other sundries. Some powerful people have treasure resources and want to cash them in. They will come to this spiritual object shop to sell them, and they also buy them here. The spiritual object shop was opened by the ancient country of the 9 realms. You can see the traces of spiritual object shops in every big clan and town in the 9 realms. There are many heaven and earth gems, Zuanhuang'erqi stone, Mingdeng stone, Liuan stone. Sudang entered the spiritual object shop and swept his eyes. in an area dedicated to selling heaven and earth treasures. He immediately saw many gems he needed, but he looked at the price again. 1 cubic meter of Zhuanghuang stone actually costs 6,000 fine gold. Expensive. Too expensive. 1 blood purifying fruit is only 600 fine gold, and this cubic meter of Zhuanghuang stone is the price of 10 blood purifying fruits. Su Dong was shocked. However, the blood purifying fruit is only a low-level heaven and earth treasure, which is relatively cheap. Sir, what treasures do you need? We have spiritual objects that can stimulate strength in a short time. A middle-aged man in a fur robe came over. He had a peaceful aura, but Su Dong could feel the terrifying power fluctuations contained in his body. This book has been updated recently in Update. This middle-aged man is a 4th level Xianshandao immortal, and is also the person in charge of this spiritual object shop. In terms of status, even the strongest person of the Xiangquan clan has to be polite when he comes, because he is backed by the 9 realms ancient country. It's still an innate creature. The middle-aged man also felt the special aura on Su Dong's body. He opened his eyes and saw that Su Dong was an innate creature of 5 colored stones. This kind of innate creature needs the most treasurous sources to improve. Because he is a big customer, he came to entertain him. In fact, most of these young men rest up to buy treasures for their coming of age gifts. So many of them buy treasures that can improve their strength in a short time. He just said that when he opened his mouth. I'm used to it. But due to the control of family resources, not many of these young masters can afford it. It depends on strength. I want to sell a blood purifying fruit, a refreshing flower and a meridian refining fragrant leaf. Su Dong looked at the middle-aged man. Sell. The middle-aged man couldn't help but smile. Okay, please come to the elegant room. You wait outside. Su Dong told the 2 maids. Then he followed the middle-aged man to the elegant room. After taking out the 3 treasures such as the blood purifying fruit to verify the quality, the middle-aged man smiled. A blood purifying fruit is 600 fine gold, the meridian refining fragrant leaf is 650 fine gold, and the refreshing flower has recently increased in price, 800 fine gold, a total of 2050 fine gold. The price was agreed. The middle-aged man handed Su Dong a storage bag, and he picked up the 3 treasures of heaven and earth. Su Dong took the fine gold and left. Looking at Su Dong's back as he left, the middle-aged man waved his hand and put away the treasures in his hand. No extra questions. This is the most official store in the 9 realms ancient country. The owners of such stores have to follow a pledge. It is absolutely safe and will not disclose any secrets to customers, nor will they ask questions or investigate. Otherwise, who would dare to come here to trade? It is precisely because of this that Su Dong dares to openly sell treasures of heaven and earth. In fact, for a behemoth like the 9 realms ancient country, some treasures of heaven and earth are not taken seriously at all. After a while, Su Dong brought 2 maids to the stall selling seeds of treasures of heaven and earth in the market again. Chapter 294 Cultivation. It's the young master who came before. He came for the 2nd time. He must be buying more seeds. Young masters of big families like this have special servants to plant spiritual fields for them. He is a big customer. The vendor next to the stall saw Su Dong and smiled warmly. Dear young master, this is the best blood purifying fruit seeds. It has just been sent back from the Bakao little world. It is guaranteed to be easy to survive and can grow the best blood purifying fruit. I want to buy starfruit seeds. Do you have any? Su Dong smiled at the vendor. The vendor was shocked. Starfruit. Dear young master, this starfruit is not easy to cultivate. It can only survive by absorbing the power of the stars. The growth cycle is also very long. It takes at least 300 years to mature. Different heavenly treasures and spiritual fruits have different cultivation conditions. For example, this starfruit is extremely difficult to cultivate, and its growth conditions are notoriously harsh. But the effect is also extraordinary. It can increase the lifespan of the void god level. The lifespan of the void god in the heavenly Dao immortals is about 10,000 years, but a starfruit can increase the lifespan of the void god by 1,000 years. Although it is only effective after taking the first one, don't underestimate this 1,000 years. For many immortal level strongmen with a limited lifespan, this 1000 years is enough to make them spend all their money to obtain it. Therefore, starfruit has always been extremely expensive. In the spiritual item shop, a starfruit can be sold for 30,000 gold. Even if it is purchased at a high price of 28,000 gold. Starfruit is not easy to cultivate, and the demand is huge. The spiritual item shop is not afraid of losing money in its hands. Sudong looked at the vendor with a calm expression on his face. You just say whether you have it or not. The vendor quickly bent down and took out 3 small copper plates. In the small copper plates were 3 thumb-sized golden seeds that were shining with starlight. Sir, I only have these 3 starfruit seeds here. I should be the only one in the whole market. The spiritual item shop has no more to sell. The vendor said respectfully. Sudong nodded. That was right. The spiritual goods shop didn't sell seeds, but only finished products. The vendor was still thinking about telling Sudong that it was very difficult for starfruit seeds to survive, and it would be a big deal if one of the 3 seeds could grow. But after Sudong asked the price directly, he asked the maid behind him to pay the bill, and turned around and left. Sudong strolled around the market again. He visited several seed selling places, but none of them sold starfruit seeds. Sudong bought a large number of 2 types of bibaloo fruit and linghuo fruit seeds. These 2 types of seeds are only slightly stronger than the pure blood fruit. After maturity, each fruit can be sold for 900 gold. They are considered the best seeds in Xiangquan City. They can't take out any better seeds. Some truly precious treasures, such as the Dantian extreme spiritual fruit, which even the immortal level strongmen are tempted by, are not easy to get. As for the starfruit seeds are notoriously difficult to cultivate. Not only does it have a long growth cycle, but it also requires a lot of star power in the middle, but it is still unclear whether it can survive in the end. There are many immortal cultivators who have cultivated starfruit for 300 years, but in the end, they are dead seeds, and can't even produce fruits. Now there is some supply, but it is very little. After buying the seeds, he exchanged refined gold for heaven and earth crystals. Coming out of the pavilion, where he bought the heaven and earth crystals. This place was opened by the Xiangquan clan. The reserves of heaven and earth crystals are limited. If you exchange refined gold for heaven and earth crystals, it will naturally attract the attention of the Xiangquan clan. Sudong shook his head. He should keep a low profile. In the future, just trade with heaven and earth crystals. Just exchange less refined gold. Although it would be a disadvantage to trade directly with heaven and earth crystals, because refined gold can be sold at a high price. Heaven and earth crystals will be at least 20% less. After returning to the mansion with 3 starfruit seeds, Sudong went straight into his room. In the room, Sudong looked at the 3 starfruit seeds in his hand. The seeds that can increase the lifespan of immortals are indeed magical. Difficult to cultivate. That's for others, but it's very simple for me. It doesn't require any environment. Sudong put the 3 kinds of seeds into the Xianshan Yimu field in the Dantian mobile phone and planted 3 starfruits in one grid. One grid was planted with 10 bibaloo fruits and 10 linghuo fruits. 3 kinds of heaven and earth treasures were planted. The starfruit matured in about 300 years. Using Xianshan Yimu field to plant, it shortens the cycle by half, and it will take about 150 years. 150 years. Each Xiandi crystal can reduce 3 years. 50 Xiandi crystals are put in first. Sudong's data core controlled 50 Xiandi crystals to enter the grid field. But a grid just absorbed 10 Xiandi crystals and stopped absorbing. One grid of spiritual field can only absorb 10 Xiandi crystals to ripen within 7 days. Sudong's data core immediately got a reminder from Xiandi Yimu field. Last time he cultivated the blood purifying fruit, he just put 10 Xiandi crystals in one grid, so he didn't get this reminder. He didn't expect it to be suddenly reminded this time. Within 7 days, a spiritual field can only bear 10 crystals to ripen. If it is shortened to 150 years, it will take 35 days. I didn't expect there is such a limit. Sudong was speechless. But it was still acceptable. 1 month was fast enough. Then he put 10 crystals in each of the other 2 fields. It takes about 150 years for the bibaloo fruit and the linghuo fruit to mature. It is shortened by half, which is 75 years. 10 crystals are put in each. It will take about half a month to harvest. Sudan can only wait patiently. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Putting aside the matter of the 1 acre of heaven and earth field, Sudan's consciousness was completely immersed in the practice of yin-yang 5-color light. In the past, he practiced martial arts and body training, and did not know the mystery of Taoism. Now that he practices Taoism, he naturally immerses himself in Taoism practice. Just when Sudan was concentrating on improving his strength, within the 90,000 li range of the Xiangquan clan, there is a wilderness swamp called the Refining Demon Swamp. The Refining Demon Swamp is a swamp with a radius of 100 li. At a glance, the dark green miasma covers the entire swamp all day long, and it is almost boundless. As the saying goes, poor mountains and bad waters produce unruly people, and deep mountains and swamps produce big monsters. There are countless monsters lurking here, big monsters and small monsters. Countless. There are even many innate big monsters. Innate monsters, extraordinary blood, and good at causing trouble to living beings are even more terrible. Among these monsters, there is a big monster called Kyanglong, which has the strength of the 5th heaven of the immortal level, can control poisonous gas, is born with innate magical powers, and has a great reputation. Xiangquan King can't do anything about it. In this refining demon swamp, there is a huge nest, which is full of many biological bones, filled with rich miasma and poisonous gas, and also has many treasures. This is the cave of the poor dragon. Hiss. A black strange monster, that was hundreds of meters long, was winding and circling. Its body was covered with scales, and there were hundreds of hooves and claws under its body. Its body was covered with dark green poisonous gas. A pair of dark yellow pupils stared at the group of trembling little monsters in front of it. The surrounding poisonous gas was too strong, causing many little monsters to faint from the poison, and tumors appeared on their bodies. The tumors emitted a foul smell. These little monsters were trembling, and did not dare to look up at the poor dragon in front of them. Hiss. The ferocious mouth of the poor dragon opened, revealing 3 terrifying blood-colored tongues intertwined inside, and the tongues were covered with sharp teeth. Some of the little monsters roared in a low voice, and some made strange sounds, communicating with each other in a strange language. But this still could not hide their fear. Wow. The dark green mist suddenly rose up, and the originally ferocious and terrifying poor dragon monster was suddenly wrapped in the dark green mist, turning into a humanoid monster with black scales wrapped around its body. His dark yellow eyes coldly scanned the many little monsters in front of him. This Lionaros has always been the leader of our monsters. How dare they, the Xiangquan clan, bully us? In half a year, it will be the time for the young men and their clan to go to Kangaya Mountain for trials. By then, we will let all these little guys die in the mountains. Dare to bully us monsters. This is the price. Kyanglong gritted his teeth. Recently, the Xiangquan clan has repeatedly sent out strong men to hunt down their little monsters. This hatred is about to erupt. Chapter 295 Coming of Age Ceremony. The lifespan of monsters is naturally long, not to mention that Kyanglong, a big monster who has learned the Taoist method of the immortal family, and knows how to practice and transform. Half a year is the time it takes for him to sleep, practice, and go out to other big monsters to eat and drink. Half a year later, another cold winter came, and the 90,000 li area of Xiangquan clan became extremely cold. It was more difficult for some weak creatures to survive, but there were also special monsters that took the opportunity to rise, especially some monsters that like to move in the ice and snow, such as snow bears and snow apes. So many tribes under the protection of Xiangquan King were ravaged by monsters. Maybe it was for food, maybe it was for treasures, and the cold winter was another synonym for killing. Some weak tribes might be wiped out in this cold winter. Rumble. The earth trembled. On a wasteland covered with weeds, a mighty group of black armored soldiers rode on various ferocious monsters, like a black torrent hitting the land. Not only on the ground, but also in the sky. Huge flying boats were flying rapidly, passing through the sky, and stopping in front of a huge mountain range. This mountain range was not tall, but it was full of strange rocks. It was surrounded by vast and thick forests, and the center was the protruding peak. Like a row of sharp monster teeth, it exuded a chill between heaven and earth. This is a famous mountain range within the 90,000 li range of Xiangquan King, Kangai Mountain. Stop. A cold shout resounded throughout the world, and the black armored knights below, like a torrent, and the flying boat team in the sky all stopped. On the flying boat in the front, Xiangquan Bishan had a cold face. Next to him were many immortal level strongmen of Xiangquan clan who could rank among the best, including Xiangquan Bi and Xiangquan Lianghu. Now behind them were many young disciples of Xiangquan clan who were about to participate in the coming of age ceremony this year, including Sudong and Xiangquan King. This is Kanya Mountain. It is the place where you can prove yourself and whether you are qualified to be a descendant of the Xiangquan family. Go and come back alive. Xiangquan Belishan waved his hand. The innate extreme spiritual fruit is waiting for the best of you. Suddenly, the formation on the flying boat lit up. The faces of the young men in the formation changed slightly. They were wrapped in the light and flew downwards. Sudong was among them. Come back alive. Xiangquan Lianghu secretly sent a message to Sudong and Xiangquan King. Xiangquan Bei also looked at Xiangquan Jiu with worry and hope. Sudong, we can go together. I know a lot of information about the monsters in Kanya Mountain. I can share it with you. Xiangquan Jiu secretly sent a message to Sudong. Since he guessed that Sudong had awakened his talent, Xiangquan Jiu had been showing goodwill to Sudong openly and secretly, and gave him a lot of small gifts. Sudong had no grudges against him in the past, so he naturally made friends with this little guy. The elders were not allowed to interfere in the coming of age ceremony, but they were allowed to help each other. There are many strong people in the family, and their feelings are tempered by the life and death of the coming of age ceremony. No problem. Sudong smiled and nodded. It was not difficult for him to pass this coming of age ceremony. He just had to kill more monsters to get the innate extreme spirit fruit. Moreover, Sudong was quite yearning and hoped that there would be some extraordinary monsters in Kangar Mountain so that he could verify the progress he had made during this period of time. Xiangquan King glanced at Sudong and said nothing. His ears rang with the words his father Xiangquan Lianghu said to him before he left. During the coming of age ceremony, don't forget to follow Sudong when killing. Now, 10 of you are not Sudong's opponent. Although Xiangquan Lianghu had never really seen Sudong take action, as a 4th level void god who mastered 3 parts of power, he could easily feel the energy contained in Sudong's body. Those energies can be said to be increasing day by day, especially in the past 2 months. Although he did not ask, Xiangquan Lianghu guessed that it should be the inherited memory of the innate creatures that was awakening little by little. With the inherited memory, Sudong could have made the progress he has today. If he knew how many treasures of heaven and earth Sudong had devoured in the past 2 months, and how many gems of heaven and earth his body had devoured, he would not think so. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Hundreds of figures were wrapped in the light ball and fell into Kangar Mountain. The gravity of the universe is extremely great. It is difficult to fly unless you are at the level of a god. If you fall from a high altitude, even a person in the 3rd level of the mortal world may be directly killed. While falling down in the light ball, Sudong also tried to control his body to fly. The power of this innate creature is much stronger than my previous body. Sudong was secretly happy. His body was so strong thanks to his efforts in the past 6 months. He worked so hard and put in so much effort, and the harvest was extremely satisfactory. His physical strength alone was comparable to that of the void god. This is the innate creature. The level of the god is to obtain the power of the realm, but Sudong's physical strength alone has reached the level of the void god. Flying between heaven and earth is a sign of being a void god. It's just that everyone is wrapped in the light ball at this moment, and no one can see that Sudong is controlling the light ball to fly. The distance these light balls landed would not be too far. After all, there were too many monsters in the Kanya Mountains. The level of danger faced by gathering together and dispersing was 2 different concepts. Sudong controlled the light ball to fly and landed directly in a valley covered with thick vegetation. There were faint black bloodstains on the vegetation. This book was recently updated in #@. Update. Sudong, we are now in the 60 Li Snake Valley in the Kanya Mountains. Xiangquan Jiu approached Sudong at the first time and completely focused on Sudong. We must go west along the valley and bypass the White Bone Hill to get out. In the past, there were brothers who were thrown here, went in the wrong direction, walked to the White Bone Hill, and died, more than half of them. Coming of age ceremony, a test of life and death. Only those who can survive this time can truly be regarded as entering the core group of strong men truly cultivated and trained by the Xiangquan family. There is a white bone monster on the White Bone Hill, named the White Bone King. This White Bone King is a fairy level monster and can control tens of thousands of white bones on the White Bone Hill to fight for it. Whoever falls into the White Bone Hill will die. Sudong immediately walked to a rock in front of him and looked towards the west. 100 meters to the west, there was a low white mountain crouching in the forest. A layer of gloomy fog gathered on the white mountain. It was the poisonous miasma generated by the strong demonic energy. Okay, you lead the way, let's go out. Sudong nodded and then said, but I won't help you kill demon beasts. It's up to you how many you can kill. During this period, Xiangquan Jiu deliberately got close to him. Although he was a little scheming, he was a teenager after all. How deep could he be? After getting along for a long time, Xiangquan Jiu was not bad. Don't worry, except for helping me in life and death crisis, you don't have to worry about other things. Xiangquan Jiu was also happy. Xiangquan King stood aside, without saying a word, but his footsteps followed Sudong to move forward. A group of trial disciples began to kill demons in the forest. Surviving is considered passing the trial. The final trial result depends on how many demon beasts are killed and what kind of demon beasts are killed. If you can kill a fairy level demon beast, you are undoubtedly the best disciple. But after so many years of the coming of age trial, how many people can kill the immortal level monsters? Almost none. When Sudong and his companions just started the coming of age trial, many monsters gradually gathered behind a dark mountain in the Kangar Mountains. The leader was the poor dragon, who was covered with scales and turned into a humanoid monster. It's time to hunt. The poor dragon roared, looking at the many flying boats circling in the sky ahead. A cold and bloodthirsty light appeared in his dark yellow pupils, and he turned into a black line and rushed into the forest ahead. Chapter 296 Breakthrough. Kangar Mountain was still very safe during the day, with many big monsters lying dormant. But at night, the scary big monsters came out and no one dared to go out. They each found a hidden area to hide. At night, Sudong and others sat in a cave, with Xiangquan King and Xiangquan Jiu who were half asleep and half awake beside them. They all lost some of their youthful childishness. After killing a lot of monsters in a day, they all had a lot more murderous aura. However, some of the monsters encountered during the day were small monsters of the first and second heavens of the mortal world. Killing these monsters was not difficult for them. Sudong sat cross-legged in the cave, closed his eyes, and concentrated on practicing. In the 5-color heart of his innate life, a surge of 5-color energy surged out, flowing through his body according to the records of the yin-yang 5-color light method, nourishing his whole body and accelerating his physical growth. The first level of the yin-yang 5-colored light Dao law is not difficult, the second level of yin-yang is a little complicated, and the third level of void escape is confusing. Sudong has been cultivating heaven and earth treasures, and selling heaven and earth treasures in exchange for exotic gems to accelerate his growth. At the same time, he is also comprehending the yin-yang 5-colored light Dao law. As an innate 5-colored stone life, he can achieve twice the result with half the effort by practicing this method, and he must not waste his talent. However, the third level of void escape is only explained in a few words in the inherited memory, plus a mysterious rune diagram. This diagram is not available in the first 2 levels. The key is in this atlas. As long as I can comprehend it successfully and imprint it into my 5-colored stone heart, I can enter a new level. It is convenient for innate creatures to have inherited memories. Others need to be taught by others to practice Taoism. No matter how detailed others teach, they still need to experience it themselves. But inherited memories are direct and straightforward, and are directly imprinted in the heart. Sudong comprehended the yin-yang and 5-colored light. At the same time, the 5 different heaven and earth gems were decomposed inside the data core. The 5 strange gems each flashed a different light. With a thought from the core data, these gems turned into energy. The gem energy traveled on the 5-colored heart, forming a complex energy structure that covered his blood. Boom, boom, boom. as the 5-colored heart beat strongly. When the 5-colored gem energy covered the heart, it immediately stimulated the power hidden deep in the 5-colored heart. The heart gradually changed, and the blood produced inside even produced a layer of strange silver light. Silver light is a symbol of nobility in the blood of innate creatures. Blood circulates. This silver glowing blood, wherever it flows, the flesh, bones, and organs there will transform. Night falls, and the cold wind whistles in the sky. The entire Kanya mountain range is lush and green, stretching endlessly into the distance. Whoosh! A series of black shadows easily fly over the forest. They are of different shapes, most of them have wings, flesh wings, and their cold eyes carefully patrol the bottom. Where are those little guys from the Shyanquan clan hiding? Found them. Don't leave any alive. Kill them all. Kill. The children of the Shyanquan clan in the coming of age ceremony are of no value to the Shyanquan clan. From the moment they stepped into the Kanya mountain, they were ready to die, so even if they were captured alive, they would not pose a threat to the Shyanquan clan, so they were usually killed directly. Behind these flying beasts, the poor dragon turned into a humanoid monster, and was also flying. As a great demon of the immortal level, its strength reached the 5th level void god, mastering 3 powers. Not only that, it is also a 4th level Shyanshandeo immortal. He was born with the ability to produce poisonous gas, and he controlled the poisonous gas to form a layer of miasma around him. Ordinary creatures rely on air to breathe, and they hold their breath, and dare not inhale a breath of miasma when facing him. Even the immortal level will reduce their strength by 30% when facing him. This is life restraint. The dark green poisonous miasma surrounded it, obscuring its figure, and it looked down through the miasma. Looking down at the forest below from a high altitude, carefully observing every place. These little guys have no other skills, but they are good at hiding. Kyanglang was very unhappy. As a powerful hunter, the most annoying thing is not hunting prey, but finding prey. But the clan children who came to participate in the coming of age ceremony were all fully prepared. Although their strengths may be strong or weak, they all worked hard to hide their bodies, and they were all excellent. After all, historical experience has proved that knowing how to hide is easier to survive the coming of age ceremony than knowing how to kill. A full 6 top level monsters that reached the immortal level accompanied Kyanglang to patrol the sky. Sudong practiced quietly. Shyanquan King, who was still half asleep and half awake, suddenly opened his eyes. Shyanquan Jiu beside him also opened his eyes in surprise. Many Shyanquan clan members in the cave also opened their eyes and looked over. Their so-called cave, except for a few ventilation holes, was completely sealed, so that the monsters could not find them. Similarly, the slight movement of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the cave instantly attracted their attention. They were all alarmed, because the surging and violent power of heaven and earth was constantly pouring into the body of Sudong, who was sitting cross-legged, and even Sudong's whole body was emitting a hazy 5-color light. What's wrong? This book was recently updated in Update. It's Sudong. Many young people noticed the changes in Sudong. They saw the 5-color light emanating from Sudong, and that light made them feel a sense of oppression, and Sudong's body quickly became stronger in the 5-color light. Is Sudong breaking through? Shyanquan Jiu was stunned. Sudong is a congenital creature of 5-colored stone. According to records, even the top congenital creatures of 5-colored stone need at least 3 or 4 years to grow to the immortal level, but he is only 2 years old this year. From birth to now, he has broken through to the immortal level in 2 years. Shyanquan King was even more unbelievable. He had always been dissatisfied, thinking that it was nothing for a congenital creature. His father was too partial to Sudong, but at this moment he was really shocked. A 2-year-old immortal level is rare in the 9 realms ancient country. After all, the immortal level is a big leap. These are still ordinary disciples, who is not waiting for a breakthrough like Sudong one day. Not good. The spiritual energy of the world is fluctuating. Maybe it will attract monsters. Immediately, a Shyanquan clan member stood up. He looked at Sudong and wanted to interrupt Sudong's breakthrough. Breaking through at this time would put them in danger. Don't disturb, King. You protect Sudong. Geiwu, Yazhao, follow me to block the vent. Don't let the spiritual energy of the world leak out. Shyanquan Jiu stood up directly. He stopped the boy who was about to interrupt Sudong's breakthrough, and at the same time, commanded 2 boys to follow him to block the vent. As the descendant of Xiangquan B, Xiangquan Jiu's words were still somewhat intimidating. Xiangquan King stood up directly, stood in front of Sudong with a stern face, and even pulled out a dagger in his hand. His strength is beyond doubt, and he can definitely be ranked in the top 3 among this group of people, but at this moment he is protecting Sudong. Sudong was brought back by my grandfather with his life, and my father values him the most. I have to protect him too. At this moment, Xiangquan King understood his father's feelings. This feeling was passed on to him, and he was determined to do it. Suddenly, the other children didn't say anything. As a clan, they were still very united, and once Sudong successfully broke through and became a fairy, it would be a good thing for them. With a fairy level innate creature in the team, their chances of passing the coming of age ceremony are much greater. The power of heaven and earth surged and leaked out of the vent. The fairy level monster's control over the power of heaven and earth is extremely powerful. Whether it was the comprehension of the heavenly Deo or the void god realm, they could sense the change in the power of heaven and earth from a distance. When the change in the power of heaven and earth was transmitted to the sky, it was already very weak, but Qianglong, as a great fairy level demon beast, had a keen sense, not to mention that it was concentrating on searching carefully at this moment. Chapter 297, Divine Level. Is the spiritual energy of heaven and earth so violent? Qianglong's dark yellow eyes instantly looked down. The majestic perception spread all over the sky. It's human breath. Qianglong confirmed it immediately. If it wasn't for its high concentration, it might not have discovered it. But once it concentrated, its perception penetrated the ground obstacles and immediately gave clear feedback. It instantly determined that it's in that cave. The spiritual energy fluctuations came from that cave. Kill. Prey. Kill. The big monster in the sky dived directly down, and the dark green poisonous miasma on Qianglong's body was stirred up, as if it was even more dense, covering the jungle. In the cave, Xiangquan Jiu was hurriedly leading several companions to close the cave ventilation vents. Boom. The violent air vibration caused by the high-speed dive in the sky made Xiangquan Jiu and others who blocked the ventilation vents look up. What? Xiangquan Jiu looked hundreds of meters above. In the huge dark green miasma, there was a humanoid monster-like figure looking down at them coldly. At the same time, there were several big monster figures rushing down at high speed around it. Flying at high altitude, even if it is a flying monster, such a fast speed and power are obviously not something that ordinary monsters can possess. Immortal level monsters. There are 7 immortal level monsters, among which the one that turned into a humanoid monster is covered with dark green poisonous miasma, which also makes Xiangquan Jiu tremble with fear. No, it's the poor dragon monster from Lion Arrows. Defense. Prepare fortifications. We can't escape. Prepare to resist. Kill. In an instant, these teenagers who had already prepared to fight the monsters for life and death made the most correct choice in extreme fear. None of them fled. All they could do was fight back. Fight back. The inside of the cave where they were was engraved with array patterns, which could defend against the attacks of immortal level monsters. King, don't worry, we won't disturb Sudong's breakthrough. You are strong. You can maintain the main array. A teenager shouted anxiously to Xiangquan King. At the moment of life and death, the status and use of the strong are more prominent. Power also means responsibility. Xiangquan King glanced at Sudong behind him, and without any hesitation, he rushed to the front at the first time, and maintained the cave defense formation with many young men. Sure. Xiangquan Jiu had 2 spears appearing out of thin air in his hands, and the spears flashed with dark red light, and threw them fiercely towards the sky. Die. An offensive and defensive battle broke out instantly. Swish. Countless long arrows and spears shot out from the gaps in the cave formation, and fell madly on the monsters swooping down from above. But the immortal level is the immortal level after all. 1 immortal level monster can crush them, not to mention 7. If they were outside, they would be killed in less than a second. Now with the blessing of the cave formation, 1 breath. Xiangquan Jiu and others looked cold. They understood this instantly when they were holding up the defense formation. With just 1 breath, the monsters outside can completely destroy the cave defense and kill them. The 6 immortal level monsters above waved their ferocious wings like 2 sharp long knives cutting through the air, and the violent wind blades fell above the cave on the ground. The defensive works they risked their lives to defend were extremely fragile in front of the might of such a big monster. A series of loud noises were heard, and countless pieces of rubble were blown away. The cover above the cave was directly blown away, and the many figures inside were clearly visible. Kill. The swooping Kyanglang stared at the people below with dark yellow pupils like a madman. So many monsters? Immortal level monsters, we are finished. I disappointed my mother. Ninga, I will never see you again. The teenagers were still panicked, but more of them had cold faces and were ready to die. Sudong is a congenital creature. It's not worth it for him to die here. Shin Quan King thought to himself. Although he felt it was unfair, this was a life that his grandfather and his father had protected together. Now it was his turn to protect it. I will protect it even if I die. Shin Quan King was very anxious, but suddenly Sudong opened his eyes. Sudong, have you succeeded in breaking through? Shin Quan King was the first to notice the calm spiritual energy and light of heaven and earth on Sudong's body, and was surprised. This book has been updated recently in @ update. Yeah. Sudong nodded and looked at Shin Quan King. Thank you. He had seen all his data cores clearly before, and it would be a lie to say that he was not moved in his heart. Nothing. This is what my father told me. Shin Quan King's face was rarely embarrassed for a moment. This was a young man who could not express his emotions. How did you suddenly break through? Don't you innate creatures normally have to grow naturally for 5 or 6 years before breaking through to the immortal level? And you? I usually eat well, so I will break through quickly naturally. Sudong smiled, but in his heart, he was thinking, even though he broke through nearly 3 years earlier, this time was all earned by him spending many strange stones of heaven and earth. Of course, the colorful stone life absorbs the gems of heaven and earth for cultivation, which can not only shorten the growth cycle, but also strengthen the body's many talents, and even give birth to special secrets. It is true that innate creatures are born to be loved by heaven and earth. Sudong stood up, and a strange energy in his body flowed directly to his whole body. A silver white energy was faintly seeping out of his 5-colored stone heart. This is the immortal power of the heavenly Dao Immortal. I mainly practice Taoism, broke through the immortal level, and I'm also a 1st level heavenly Dao Immortal. My will consciousness is even a 2nd level void god. I also have a divine power. Because he mainly practiced yin and yang 5-color light, he broke through Taoism. At this moment, Sudong reached the immortal level in a very balanced way. At the same time, he possessed a divine power, a heavenly Dao Immortal power, plus 2 powers of Taoism, which is 4 powers. If I can use my sword skills and use the extreme mode amplification, I can add nearly 2 more powers. Just broke through the immortal level and mastered 6 powers. Even in the 9 realms ancient country, they are all geniuses among geniuses. A few little demon beasts dare to be arrogant. Leave it to me, Sudong said, and he stepped directly, and his figure instantly turned into a 5-color streamer and soared into the sky. Sudong. Shin Quan King was shocked. He went to fight the big monster right after breaking through. Shin Quan Jiu and others who were struggling to defend themselves stared at the big monster approaching rapidly in the sky. It's over. We are not at the same level at all. What bad luck. This coming of age ceremony is probably the most unlucky one for our Shin Quan clan. No one will survive. Everyone was filled with despair. Shin Quan King's mind was turning rapidly. There must be a chance. There must be. Calm down. Calm down. He held a long sword in his hand. He also practiced swordsmanship. At this moment, whoosh, a stream of 5-colored light flew up from behind them, with dazzling light and power, directly flying high into the sky. That was Shin Quan Sudong. Flying? Immortal level. Sudong broke through the immortal level. Is it the breakthrough of the void god or the heavenly Dao Immortal? Many young people had light bursting out of their eyes, staring at the 5-colored divine light rising into the sky. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298, Perfection of Mystery. Shinpanji was even more shocked and widened his eyes, watching Sudang rushing over from a distance. Just rush over like this? Fight with the monsters in close combat? Even if they were one level higher in realm than the monsters, they would not dare to fight in close combat. Monsters are naturally strong in close combat due to their body structure. Sudang, you just broke through. Be careful. Shinpanji shouted hurriedly. Although he knew that Sudang was an innate creature, there were also 7 immortal level monsters on the opposite side, and one of them was a poor dragon monster that had cultivated the Taoism and transformed. Monsters can also practice Taoism. There are even powerful tribal kingdoms among the monsters. The backing of real monsters is no weaker than that of the 9 realms ancient kingdom. Sudang, a newly broken immortal level innate creature, fought with so many monsters? Sudang felt the wind between heaven and earth blowing on his face. The energy contained in his body surged and automatically released to form a layer of 5-color light and shadow, controlling the spiritual power of heaven and earth, and flying in the air. This feeling was very special, and it also made Sudang smile. This is the power of the void god level, the power of God. It feels very special. Controlling everything around out of thin air, the power of the void god can easily attach to every move. The void god, born for close combat. I haven't practiced any martial arts since I came to this world, because the martial arts of this world are very rough, but I practiced the 8th level of the wind mystery swordsmanship before I became a void god. I'm not weak in close combat. Sudang smiled. Before he became a void god, he dared to fight the Stone Ghost clan with his skills and power. Those were all close combat. It's just that, since he came to this world, he has been studying the yin-yang 5-color light Dao. Swoosh. Feeling his own power, Sudang didn't take the monsters in front of him seriously. Except for the poor dragon, the rest were ordinary monsters that mastered one part of the power of the gods. He mastered 6 parts of the power. Killing them was as easy as cutting melons and vegetables. This is my first battle to become a fairy level. Let's kill them to our heart's content. Sudang said secretly. His killing intent was boiling, but the monsters on the opposite side were grinning and roaring. A fairy level appeared among the disciples of the coming of age ceremony trial. He broke through to the fairy level before he reached adulthood. Obviously, this is the real genius of the Xiangquan clan. They like to kill this kind of genius the most. Everyone roared excitedly. Human geniuses should be killed when they just rise. This little guy, he just broke through and rushed towards us. He is really looking for death. The poor dragon turned into a humanoid monster and grinned at this moment. He also saw Sudang's extraordinariness, but he was confident enough. How strong can a fairy level little guy who just broke through be? The 6 big monsters in front of him quickly dispersed in all directions. Harnessing the power of God, they approached Sudang. Kill. At the moment of approaching, Sudang's palm suddenly clenched, and a vast power suddenly burst out. The power of God allowed Sudang to easily control all his power. The mystery of wind easily burst out, and a layer of invisible wind instantly spread out, forming a wind space of 50 feet. In the small world, the mystery of wind was released, and it easily covered 80 feet. But in this big world, where the world is more perfect and the oppression is stronger, the wind space can only cover 50 feet. Although there is only 50 feet of wind space, it is enough. After all, Sudang at this moment is an innate creature who masters the power of God. 5-color light burst out instantly. The wind space easily wrapped the 3 big monsters. Is this the mystery of heaven and earth? Be careful of this wind. Can this wind suppress our speed? The 3 big monsters roared and communicated instantly, terrified. Under the cover of the wind space, the 3 monsters became live targets. 3 5-color lights turned into knife lights. The beautiful and gorgeous knife lights flashed and easily cut the monsters' bodies. Blood flew across the sky, dyeing the trees on the ground red, and also brought more fierce killing to this cold winter. In one encounter, 3 immortal level monsters died. This is just Sudang mobilizing his divine power to practice the mysteries of heaven and earth. This is only 1.5 of the power. If he stimulates 6 of the power and attacks with all his strength, I'm afraid that he can kill these monsters in an instant, including the poor dragon. You mastered the mysteries of heaven and earth just after the breakthrough? The fluctuations of the mysteries of heaven and earth suppress our speed. It's easy to fall into a disadvantage when fighting with him. Don't fight him in close combat. The remaining 3 monsters immediately spread their wings and flew up quickly, for fear of being sucked into the 50-foot wind space. This is the first time that the monsters dare not fight humans in close combat. They activated the Deo from a distance, forming wind blades, and streamers bombarded Sudan. The poor dragon was covered with poisonous miasma, and his dark yellow pupils looked coldly at Sudan, who was shrouded in the 50-foot wind space. In this world, it is easy to break through the immortal level, but it is amazing to practice the mysteries of heaven and earth and master the power. How much power does it master? 1/5 level heavenly god power, plus the power of the Deo, plus the strong talent of the monster and the power of the mark obtained by chance. A total of 3 powers plus talent. He has not mastered the power of the heavenly way at all. Seeing a young man practicing the mysteries of heaven and earth to perfection, mastering the power of the mysteries of heaven and earth. It's too unbelievable. The level of the mysteries of heaven and earth is so high, it is obvious that he was at a very high level in practicing the mysteries of heaven and earth before he became a void god. This book was recently updated in update. In the void, it is easy to become a void god, but it is difficult to practice the mysteries of heaven and earth. Kill him, must kill him, he is so strong in practicing the mysteries of heaven and earth now. If we give him some more time, what will happen? Kyanglang was anxious. Dark green miasma pupa rushed towards Sudan, joined the 3 major monsters to bombard Sudan. Many Xiangquan clan teenagers below watched, some of them controlled magic weapons, some held weapons, all wanted to fight to the death, but then, they were all dumbfounded. Stupidly watching this scene in the sky, the invisible wave spread, and saw a series of colorful sword lights flashing, as gorgeous and beautiful as rainbows. So powerful. Xiangquan King watched, his eyes burst into a hot light. Sudan's swordsmanship is so powerful. He also practiced the mysteries of heaven and earth, and comprehended the mysteries of ice and frost. The mysteries were only a few feet, but Sudan easily reached 50 feet. And with a wave of his hand, he could trigger such a terrible 5-color sword light without using any weapons. Obviously, Sudan's attainments in swordsmanship are extremely high. Ridiculously high. Killing a big monster is like killing a chicken. Is this the awakening talent of the innate creatures? Shinpanjiu was confused. No, this is not a talent. It should be just a killing move and the inherited memory. Innate creatures all have inherited memories. When the inherited memories are awakened, they can easily master superb skills, but it is still a bit outrageous to be so high. This is too powerful. The 3 immortal level monsters were killed in the blink of an eye. They couldn't help swallowing their saliva when they saw it. Sudan maintained the wind space to block the attacks of the remaining 4 monsters. At first, it was just a simple defense. He didn't take these monsters seriously at all, but after using the wind space, he suddenly felt different. He just kept the wind space floating there, with colorful light flashing in his eyes. In the past, I had already comprehended the 8th level of the mystery of wind, before I became a void god. Obviously, I had a very high level of understanding in the mystery of heaven and earth. Now that I have broken through the void god, I have mastered 2 powers of Taoism, but I have never studied the mystery of wind. This time, I feel so clear. The big monster screamed desperately to kill Sudan, but Sudan closed his eyes directly in the wind space. This is the wind. The 9th level of the mystery of wind. It should be like this. As time passed, the 50-foot wind space surrounding Sudan suddenly swelled. Not only did it swell, but a layer of invisible wind floated in the range of 100 feet between heaven and earth. The wind swept away the remaining clouds, easily covering the entire world, and also covering many monsters such as Kyanglang. The mystery is perfect. The power of heaven. Kyanglang suddenly widened his dark yellow pupils. Chapter 299, Mark Power. It was only the mysteries of heaven and earth that were terrifying just now. How come it suddenly became complete? The complete mysteries of heaven and earth naturally form a power, plus the power of the void god. That is 2 powers. 2 full powers. No. Let me out. The three monsters, that had been flying far enough to bombard Sudong from a distance, were suddenly enveloped by the surging wind space. The 100-foot wind space was perfect and flawless, and the power of heaven and earth descended. The 5-colored sword light instantly bloomed on them, and the three monsters died instantly. In front of the two powers, they had no chance to resist at all, and were instantly torn into slag by the sword light. The poor dragon was covered with dark green miasma, which surged and blocked the dazzling sword light. The body shape was changed to 100 meters long, with densely packed hoofs and claws. The pair of huge dark yellow pupils stared at Sudong. Awesome, you are awesome. I didn't expect that I would meet such a great genius after my first visit. He broke through the void god in his coming of age ceremony, and mastered the power of the mysteries of heaven and earth. If he couldn't become a void god, it would be great if he mastered half of the power. This is also what Xiangquan Liang has always asked of Xiangquan King. With the rich spiritual energy of the 9 realms, becoming a void god is inevitable, but comprehending the mysteries of heaven and earth is different. What is a genius? The faster you comprehend the mysteries of heaven and earth, the more talented you are. But the last thing you should have done is to meet me. Even if you master the power of heaven and earth, it doesn't matter. With the power of the void god, it's still only 2 powers. I have mastered one more power of the mark, and this power of the mark will crush you to death. Qiang Lang roared with his ferocious mouth. The scales on his face twisted, and at the same time, a strange mark appeared between his eyebrows. The mark was dark green, surrounded by rich miasma, and constantly gathered terrible power. The power of the mark. The dark green poisonous fog continued to rise and roll, and a terrifying dark green dragon was faintly formed. Once the dark green dragon was formed, it kept tumbling and circling, and its power surged again and again, to repel Sudong's wind space. Boom. An extremely powerful breath suddenly erupted from the dark green dragon, and this breath covered the sky and the earth. The poisonous fog floated, and instantly made the faces of the Xiangquan clan disciples below, whose faces had just improved, suddenly change. I saw that the poor dragon suddenly erupted with 3 powers, directly suppressing Sudong's divine power and the power of the mystery of heaven and earth. The poor dragon itself changed its appearance. A single horn extended from its hideous and terrifying head, and a circle of sharp spikes like spears grew on its neck. Even the dark yellow eyes turned golden. Dazzling, but it contained a terrifying killing intent that made people shudder. Mark power. Normally, the power of the mark is not integrated into the body. It will only be activated when it is needed for battle. Once the power of the mark is activated, life itself will be rapidly strengthened. This is the power of the mark in the void. Even the lowest level of the mark power is very popular in the void. After all, the lowest level is a treasure that can directly increase the power, which is enough to make too many immortal level powerhouses crazy. But the power of the mark also has a level limit. The power of the mark of the immortal level cannot be used by the heavenly gods and immortals. Similarly, by analogy, the higher the level of the mark power, the more terrible the value. Qiang Long uses the power of the mark. What a terrible power of the mark. I once saw Uncle Bishan use his power of the mark once, and it was also terrible. But not this terrible. Xiangquan Bishan, the 3rd strongest immortal level person in the Xiangquan clan, has a normal power of the mark. It's over. Xiangquan Jiu and Xiangquan King looked sad and pale, but Sudong looked at the poor dragon who was overwhelming him, and a smile appeared on his lips. Then an extremely terrifying aura spread from Sudong's body, and almost instantly made Xiangquan King, Xiangquan Jiu and others look at the aura. It also made the poor dragon who was about to kill in the distance look at the source of the aura in astonishment. On Sudong's body, 5-color light shot up into the sky, illuminating the entire sky. The colorful light was suspended in the sky, swaying and blooming like a beautiful morning glow. Heavenly immortal. This. Sudong not only broke through the void god, but also broke through the heavenly immortal. Xiangquan King, Xiangquan Jiu, the children of the Xiangquan family, etc. were all completely shocked. They saw with their own eyes that a void god burst out with the dazzling light of the heavenly Dao rules like the sun, and the light even exuded a pressure that made them tremble. Heavenly immortal. You broke through to become a heavenly Dao immortal? You are not. Qiang Long's eyes were full of disbelief. He had just broken through To become a void god, how could he become a heavenly Deo immortal? Two schools broke through at the same time. How small is the chance to encounter this? Even if you are a heavenly Deo immortal, so what? Add one more power, the same 3 powers, and fight. I'm a monster clan, and I will fight more than you. If I can kill you, the clan will give me many rewards, it's worth it. Kyang Long's eyes fell on Sudang. There was shock, murderous intent and greed. The human kid in front of him was too talented. Breaking through the 2 cultivation schools of Void God and Heavenly Deo Immortal at the same time. This is the real demon genius of mankind, and the demon clan will spread the whole world. To kill such a genius, it must not be allowed to grow up, and if it grows up, it will be a disaster for their demon clan. Ridiculous. Sudang looked at Kyang Long, who might not understand at all. He didn't regard this big bug as an opponent at all. It was just a bug that happened to break through and was delivered to the door and could be killed at will. As he raised his hand, the 5-colored light on his body gathered in his palm, forming an extremely beautiful palm-sized 5-colored light wheel. The whole 5-colored light wheel kept spinning, and the power contained in it surged and filled the entire night sky, directly crushing the power of the mark of the poor dragon. Taoism, 5-colored wheel. The 4th level of power. Kill. Sudang's eyes turned cold. This book was recently updated in #at. Update. Whoosh. The 5-colored light wheel in his hand shot out like a 5-colored stream of light, shooting straight at the panic-stricken poor dragon in the distance. Immortal Taoism. Powerful Taoism. The poor dragon turned around and fled, frantically controlling the poisonous miasma in the sky to escape. A void god who had just broken through and realized the power of controlling the heavenly Deo, and at the same time, broke through to become a heavenly Deo immortal, it would be fine. But he also mastered the power level immortal Taoism. A human who controls the power of the mysteries of heaven and earth also masters the Taoist magic of immortals. Monster. This is a monster. The poor dragon was really terrified. He fled madly, but then he found that the 5-colored stream of light was much faster than it, and it burst in front of it in an instant. Human, tell me what your name is. The poor dragon roared. Die. Sudang sneered. He was not that stupid. Who knows if this poor dragon has the means to communicate before death and inform other monster tribes. That would not only cause trouble for himself, but also bring disaster to the Xiangquan clan. Puff. The 5-colored wheel instantly sank into the head of the poor dragon. This 4th power became the butcher knife that crushed it to death. The poor dragon was instantly killed by the power explosion. Silence. This monster that had been causing trouble in the Yaos for many years died like this. Swish. Sudang made a move, and the huge monster body of the poor dragon kept shrinking, and finally turned into a stream of light, and sank into his sleeve. It's more convenient to inherit the method of controlling objects and embracing the zoomy in memory. Sudang thought secretly. At the same time, he thought of Kyang Long, who had many treasures on him. For example, the power of the mark was priceless. Chapter 300, Poison Dragon Mark. At that time, the 7th void god of the Yan clan repeatedly told me the importance of mastering the power of the heavenly Deo. In the void, the realm improvement is not difficult before the realm level immortal, and the most difficult is the king level immortal. Although I have just broken through the immortal level, I can easily kill the poor dragon. Sudang now deeply understood how correct the decision he made at that time was. Breaking through the immortal level, mastering 2 powers, mastering 1 power with the perfect wind mystery, mastering 2 powers with the Taoist 5-color wheel and yin and yang, plus the power of the sword and the extreme mode, that is 7 powers. As a strong man who uses a sword, using a sword, and not using a sword are 2 different concepts. Sudang. Many young men of the Xiangquan clan were looking at Sudang in the sky below in admiration, with their faces full of burning excitement. Sudang, you are too amazing. You broke through the void god and the heavenly Deo immortal at the same time, and you also achieved perfection in the mystery, and mastered the power. I feel that Sudang is more powerful than my father. Your father is only the void god of the 2nd heaven, and he hasn't even mastered the power of the heavenly Deo. How can he compare with Sudang? They were all amazed. In this world, the strong are respected. As long as you have strength, you have status and power. No one will disobey. Sudang, you have to help us in this coming of age ceremony. You don't need to kill monsters for us, just don't let us die. Yes, give us a hand between life and death. The young men said eagerly. Kill the monsters well. Sudang neither agreed nor refused. The coming of age ceremony is to let these clan children hone themselves and experience the test of life and death. Without enough tempering, they will eventually fall in the future. An uneasy night passed like this. The next morning, they started another day of killing. Although Sudang wanted to let these Xiangquan King disciples experience hardships, he also took action twice. One time, he suddenly encountered a fairy level monster that mastered the mysteries of the heavenly Dao and realized the claw method. This kind of monster should be taken by him. There was another one that was even more thrilling. When they passed through the White Bone Hill, the White Bone King, who had been dormant for a long time, controlled many white bone corpses to appear. The impact of the tide of more than 10,000 corpses. If Sudang had not mastered the mysteries of the wind space would have spread 100 feet. The many Xiangquan disciples would have been in real danger. However, as soon as Sudang showed his fairy level strength, plus the mysteries of the heavenly Dao and the power of the 5-colored wheel Dao, the White Bone King hiding in the dark did not even appear and was directly scared away. There is a fairy level among the disciples who are undergoing the trial of the coming of age ceremony. This is probably a conspiracy of the Xiangquan clan to kill me. The White Bone King was very cautious. He had occupied the White Bone Hill for more than 10,000 years. If he had not been cautious, he would have died more than 100 times. It was another night, and everyone was resting. Today, thanks to Sudang, the White Bone King led many white bone corpses to appear. The overwhelming tide of corpses made my legs weak. Fortunately, there was Sudang. Release the power field and easily block the tide of white bone corpses. In the huge cave camp, Sudang was covered with thick and soft fur, and in front of him were delicious meat jerky and fruit wine, and a warm bonfire. Some of the Xiangquan clan disciples who were usually arrogant and incompetent were serving him like servants. Among them was Xiangquan Jiu. In the past, Xiangquan Jiu only thought that Sudang was an awakened talent. He could still compare with a congenital creature who only awakened his talent, but he could break through the fairy level. He suddenly had no idea of comparing. They were not at the same level at all. This time when he returns, Sudang's status will definitely increase greatly. The strong are respected in the clan. Sudang, a congenital creature of the clan, has such great potential and is destined to be valued by the clan. The difference in treatment between geniuses and mediocre people is huge. Not to mention, Sudang is now a terrible strong man. Sudang and I have a good relationship. I will work harder. In the future, as long as I have Sudang as a background in the clan, many things will be much more convenient. Xiangquan Jiu is good at political schemes. His scheming is not deep or shallow. It's just that he takes the small pool of Xiangquan clan too seriously. In fact, in Sudang's heart, he is just a passerby of Xiangquan clan, but the void reincarnation happened to reincarnate here. Of course, Xiangquan Liang who treats him very well, and he also remembers it in his heart. Besides, these clan children may have different personalities, but they really help each other. There will be no real hatred, so Sudang doesn't mind, even though he knows that Xiangquan Jiu wants to please him. Let him go. Maybe this is the way of survival in this world. Night. In Sudang's data core space, a dark green strange mark was emitting a faint green light and floating. Just floating there, it emitted a monstrous poisonous fog. Immortal level mark, poisonous dragon mark. It comes from a strange secret realm in the void. It can give the user a poisonous dragon power and can control the poisonous fog to attack a large area. After inhaling the poisonous dragon poisonous fog, everyone below the immortal level will be paralyzed. Looking at this poisonous dragon mark, Sudang was quite satisfied. The mark can tell whether the dead are alive or not. The mark itself does not represent good or evil. Only the user can tell good from bad. This is my first mark power. Not bad. Sudang looked at the poisonous dragon mark. Although the poisonous fog attack was a bit useless, it could only deal with immortals below the level, and it must be a flesh and blood life that breathes air. For a congenital creature like him made of 5-colored stone, the poisonous fog is ineffective. and the space covered by the poisonous fog is also limited in range and cannot exceed 100 feet. This is exactly the same as Sudong's wind space, which is even more useless for him. But at least it adds a bit of power. This book was recently updated on update. One night passed again, and in the next day, Sudong and others walked through the jungle. They killed many monsters on the way, and some Xiangquan clan members were unfortunately killed by monsters. Some monsters were born to hide, and no matter how powerful Sudong was, he could not detect them in advance. By the time he detected them, he was already dead. This also alerted these Xiangquan clan members that monsters are extremely scary. No matter what kind of strong person you follow, you can never be careless. Look, that's the plane. That's our Xiangquan clan's Zenbei city. Haha, we're back. I passed the adult ceremony, and I, Xiangquan Zubo, also passed the adult ceremony. Many Xiangquan clan members walked out of the jungle, all excited. Sudong, thank you. Xiangquan King followed Sudong. The former, who always disliked Sudong, was quite respectful at this moment. I didn't do anything. You killed the monster with your strength and passed the coming of age ceremony. Sudong shook his head. No, you have helped us a lot. You broke through the immortal level and can easily release your power to fly in the sky. If you want, you can easily fly out of Kangar Mountain. Xiangquan King was very persistent. Sudong just smiled and said nothing more. The crowd was mighty. Some put on new clothes, some carried the corpses of monsters they were most proud of on their backs, and others drank fruit wine in big gulps, walked across the plains, and headed straight for Zenbei city in front. Passing the coming of age ceremony means that they have truly become a member of the new generation of the Xiangquan family, and it also means that they have crossed a life and death barrier. The days ahead will be very beautiful. Outside Zenbei city, Sudong sat on the back of a second level monster with a tiger head and a bull body that a disciple had captured and tamed for him, and saw a majestic city in the distance. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.